Chapter 731. Without any surprise, Qin took the ring containing the dragon blood from Li Youjia's hand and waved his hand, sending him away. Li Youjia, who had been feeling uneasy in his heart, suddenly relaxed. He knew that the previous matter had been resolved, and he felt as if he had just escaped from death. "Thank you for your magnanimity, sir. This lowly one will take his leave." He knelt down and kowtowed. Then he stood up and respectfully took several steps backwards. Just as he was about to turn and leave, Qin Yu's voice sounded out in his ears. "Soon, Rong Wei will leave the hidden fog sect." Li Youjia let out a long breath. When Qin Yu spoke just now, his heart nearly leapt out his chest. Li Youjia blankly thanked Qin Yu and left. After walking for some time, a gust of wind blew against him. It was only then that Li Youjia realized what Qin Yu had said. Rong Wei was about to leave. Even though he was only from a branch family, he knew the true reason why the East Sorceley family was able to rise to such heights. Once Rong Wei was gone, would the Li family still be taken care of by the Hidden Fog sect? The answer was obvious, but if they knew about this in advance, they would be able to make arrangements to deal with it. Even though the Li family would still be in a passive position, they would not fall into a predicament. After all, during these past years, it was impossible for the Li family to place all their reliance on the Hidden Fog sect. They had already established some other channels. Li Youjia had a look of gratitude on his face as he bowed respectfully in the direction he came from. He knew that this was Master Qin's way of repaying him. Perhaps in his lord's eyes, it was just a casual reminder, but to Li Youjia, it was a turning point that could change his fate. He had already decided to immediately leave Dragon City and report to the main family in East Source. An hour later, Qin Yu carefully inspected the array and didn't find anything wrong. He cupped his hands together towards Elder One Eye and stepped into the transmission array. The array formation suddenly lit up and the surrounding space twisted. When the light faded away, Qin Yu's figure had vanished from sight. The one-eyed elder squinted his remaining eyeball and said faintly, "Have you locked onto the location of our honored guest?" After several breaths of time, a Shadow Clan cultivator hurried over. Reporting to Elder, "We have already captured the array formation mark." The one-eyed elder nodded. There is no need for him to intervene in the following matters. More than 400 shadow trees, including the 30 in his hands, had all just been cut down. There was no need to say what this meant. The Shadow Clan hadn't broken their promise. They only hoped to obtain more shadow trees from their honored guest. Not too far away from the Hidden Fog sect station, in a remote garden, space suddenly twisted and Qin Yu's figure appeared. Without any hesitation, he raised his head to determine the direction and headed straight for an eye-catching tree. Several breaths of time later, with the sound of violent spatial fluctuations, Qin Yu's feet rose and fell several times before he vanished into the layers of buildings. A moment later, a few figures appeared beside the teleportation array in the shadow of the tree. After completing its mission, it had self-destructed. One of them frowned and squatted down to examine it carefully. The teleportation array was a standard product that could be purchased as long as one had spirit stones. It was impossible to determine its origin. Based on the remnant patterns of the array, he determined that the teleportation range was more than 3,000 miles. He sighed softly in his heart. This person had already left Dragon City. "Let's go and report to the Patriarch." Schwa, schwa. The few of them whistled away. At the witchcraft sect's encampment, Little Ancestor was stamping with rage. His eyes flashed with an ominous light, as if he wanted to swallow someone whole. Trash. A bunch of trash. The cultivator who took away the dragon blood and dragon soul had quietly vanished, causing all of the witchcraft sect's preparations to fail. Below, the witchcraft sect cultivators kneeling on the ground lowered their heads, not daring to defend themselves. They allowed Little Ancestor to vent the anger in his chest. With Little Ancestor's personality, he clearly couldn't blame them for this matter. As long as they honestly admitted their guilt and were scolded, everything would soon pass. If they dared to defend themselves and contradict him, then they were truly tired of living. Everyone was well aware that the cultivator's sudden disappearance was inevitably related to the Shadow Clan. But no matter how they considered this matter, the witchcraft sect had no right to question the Shadow Clan. They had to eat this loss. That's right, in the minds of the witchcraft sect cultivators, allowing Qin Yu to escape with the dragon blood and dragon soul was the same as them suffering a loss. This was because these things originally belonged to them. Little Ancestor cursed for a long time. Then, he gasped for breath as he sat back down. He drank a mouthful of cold tea and finally couldn't hold himself back anymore. He ruthlessly smashed the teacup to the ground, shattering it. "You bastard, don't ever let me see you again, otherwise I'll make you beg for death." The dragon blood was fine, but the dragon soul was something he yearned for even in his dreams. As long as the witchcraft sect could obtain it, they could cultivate several powerful goo insects that had long since gone extinct. With Little Ancestor's status, he had the qualifications to participate in the distribution. But now, everything had become a bubble. Yin Dai obeyed her teacher's orders. She stayed in her room until the next morning. She could no longer suppress the torment in her heart and ran straight to the laboratory. When she arrived, there were already several guests in the laboratory. They were the hidden Fog Sect Master, Elder C, and other high-level figures of the sect. Mr. Qin didn't participate in yesterday's auction. You really missed out on a grand event. As Yin Dai heard these first words, she was stunned. Luckily, she reacted quickly and bowed before anyone noticed. "Greetings, teacher, sect master, and fellow elders." Qin Yu smiled and nodded. "Rise." Yin Dai stood up and moved to the side. Her tense heart quietly relaxed. It seemed that her teacher hadn't been discovered yet. The heavens were truly protecting her. Elder C said, "Miss Yin Dai didn't participate in yesterday's auction, so you might not know what happened. The Shadow Clan put out a total of 3 items, and 2 of them were taken away by a mysterious cultivator. He is truly rich enough to rival a nation. I wonder which influence he comes from." Another elder said, "That's right. I pity those people from the witchcraft sect. They were ruthlessly humiliated and didn't even have a chance to recover. That mysterious person didn't even take a single step out of the Shadow Clan's camp before vanishing without a trace." Ha ha ha. I heard that the witchcraft sect's Little Ancestor flew into a rage and cursed for an entire hour. The witchcraft sect master even accidentally broke his most beloved witchcraft raising goo cup. Serves them right. The witchcraft sect has been increasingly rampant lately. This matter will suppress their arrogance. Everyone spoke up, gloating over the hidden Fog sect's misfortune. Although the dragon blood, dragon soul, and dragon tooth were precious, they weren't essential to the hidden Fog sect. Even if they couldn't obtain them, they wouldn't be too disappointed. Yin Dai barely managed to maintain her calm, but her mood was a bit strange. She didn't need a guess to know that the mysterious cultivator that Elder C and the others were talking about was the teacher that she was listening to with great interest and even asking questions from time to time. Looking at the oblivious hidden Fog sect members, Yin Dai sighed inwardly. Not only was her teacher the Grand Beast Trainer realm, but his acting skills were also top-notch. After joking around for some time, the hidden Fog sect master coughed and said, "Mr. Dragon City's Beast Arena will open today. Please enter at noon. Afterwards, I'll have to trouble you with everything." With a solemn expression, he stood up and earnestly bowed. Elder C and the others all had dignified expressions. They looked at him with anticipation in their eyes. If the hidden Fog sect could have the last laugh, then all of them would obtain rich rewards. Qin Yu nodded. "Sect Master, rest assured that I will do my best." A strange light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Whether it was because of the jade pendant in the reward for being the champion, or because of the bet with the Dark Parliament, this Beast King war could only be won. Sensing Qin Yu's earnest and solemn expression, the hidden Fog sect master relaxed. He took out a storage ring and said, "This is all the items that the hidden Fog sect won at the Shadow Clan's auction yesterday. Mister can use them as you wish." He laid down the ring and stood up. "I won't disturb Mister's rest any longer. Before you leave, I will send someone to inform you." He led Elder C and the others away. As a disciple, Yin Dai saw them off in place of her teacher. After the hidden fog sect master and the others left, Yundai turned and looked at the entrance to the laboratory. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. Teacher, she respectfully bowed. There were many puzzles in her heart, but she didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she should speak or not. She couldn't help but hesitate. Chinyu glanced at her and said, "Things are as you think." There was nothing more to say, but this was enough. Yundai was startled. Then, she revealed a moved expression. "Teacher, rest assured that this disciple will keep her mouth shut and not reveal a single word to anyone." Chinyu believed her words. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed her to directly participate yesterday. The only bad thing was that Yundai knew that he had cultivated a massive number of shadow trees in less than 3 days. But for a time, Chinyu couldn't find a reasonable explanation. He could only temporarily set it aside. Thinking for a moment, he said, "Yundai, there are some things that I cannot tell you right now, but I have my own reasons. Right now, the most important matter for us is to win the Beast King War and win the bet with the Dark Parliament." Yundai respectfully bowed. "Yes, teacher." Dragon City, in a courtyard, 2 figures were sitting across from each other. On a square wooden table in the middle was a complete and precious tea set. As boiling hot spirits spring water flowed into it, white steam rose up and the fragrance of tea filled the air. "Please." The person on the left looked to be in his 30s. He had a handsome and elegant appearance. He smiled and spoke with a calm and gentle demeanor. The cultivator on the other side wore black robes that covered his entire body. He clenched his teeth and said, "Just who are you?" He had thought about this question for a long time, but hadn't come up with any answers. That secret should have been completely annihilated by that saber strike in the past. But this person clearly knew. If he wasn't sure that since this person dared to appear in front of him, he would have made all the necessary preparations. Otherwise, he would have attacked and killed this person on the spot. The middle-aged cultivator pointed at the teacup. "Spirit tea is precious and is bred from the spiritual essence of the heavens and earth." "I didn't think it would be a phoenix lawn. It isn't a purebred phoenix lawn. Rather, it has undergone some sort of mutation that gives it the ability to communicate with the stars. To cause a change in the weather, this is something that only a top spirit beast can do." Before they even entered the arena, the competition between the 7 great sects had already begun. They had to display their strength to attract the attention of the cultivators in the city and have them join their side. This was because the number of cultivators they attracted was also the key to obtaining the first position. Within the hidden fog sect station, they could feel powerful auras erupting from all directions, as well as the cries of surprise coming from the center of Dragon City. The faces of the hidden fog sect people flushed red and their hearts raced. Everyone's eyes gathered on them. The hidden fog sect master took a deep breath. He said, "Let's go." He looked at Chinyu and saw the latter shake his head. Without hesitation, he stepped out. Behind him, everyone from the hidden fog sect, including Chinyu and Yundai, followed. Pa, pa. The sound of their footsteps gradually became unified. A bold and confident aura was released from everyone's bodies, gathering together as a signal to charge forward. Roar! With a deep roar, the Dark Star Ice Serpent's aura erupted. In the skies above the hidden fog sect station, it condensed into a giant figure. It was shaped like a flood dragon and had a pair of sharp claws beneath its abdomen. Between its 2 eyes, a silver white horn stretched out like a spear. Within its giant eyes, silver-white runes appeared. It was cold and indifferent, possessing the aura of a king. As it panted, a faint white fog appeared between its nose and mouth. The temperature in the air rapidly fell, and countless icicles condensed, dancing around it. It's the hidden fog sect. This is the spirit beast that suppressed the witchcraft sect outside the city gates. This spirit beast is called the dark star ice serpent. Just as the rumors say, it is terrifyingly strong. Look at the icicles surrounding its body. Just one of them is enough to freeze a river. What a pity the Hidden Fog sect was too impatient. After being provoked by the witchcraft sect, they revealed their trump card. Now that everyone knows that the dark star ice serpent is skilled in ice attribute supernatural powers, I fear they've already made preparations. That's true. Otherwise, the dark star ice serpent might have had a chance to compete for the position of chief. Of the cultivators that gathered at Dragon City to watch the battle, there were many with keen eyes. They could naturally sense that the dark star ice serpent wasn't ordinary. Thus, they felt it was a pity. For a spirit beast whose attribute had been figured out, as long as there were methods to counter it, it would be enough to offset most of its threat. Many people sneered inwardly. The Hidden Fog sect, humph, how stupid. Moonkeep Tower, Mount Fuyao, and the Blue Origin sect attacked one after another. Now, all 7 great sects had appeared. With Dragon City's arena as the center, 7 phantoms of powerful spirit beasts appeared in 7 directions. They stirred up the spiritual strength of the heavens and earth, their roars and roars like raging waves. As if by prior agreement, the phantoms of the 7 spirit beasts advanced towards the arena. Invisible energies collided, causing the skies to change colors. Black clouds soared light, ice and snow, astral winds, all sorts of strange phenomena collided, causing one's heart to race and their minds to be filled with excitement. In the past Beast King Wars, the opening ceremonies had always been spectacular. The 7 great sects used the spirit beasts to display their strength, resisting and suppressing each other. Suddenly, a deep roar erupted. A black fog appeared out of thin air, carrying with it a formidable corrosive attribute as it wrapped around the dark star ice serpent. Cries of alarm sounded out. The witchcraft sect has taken action. Their goal is indeed the Hidden Fog sect. These 2 sects have a deep grudge between them. Every time they meet, there will be a battle. The witchcraft sect's spirit beast hasn't been exposed yet, but looking at its aura, it is absolutely powerful. The dark star ice serpent might not be able to resist it. Indeed, although the witchcraft sect is cruel and ruthless, they rarely do things they aren't sure of. Since they have taken action, they must have made preparations. The Hidden Fog sect master frowned. Everyone behind him had nervous expressions. After the dark star ice serpent had fully recovered, they hadn't seen it fight yet. Moreover, the one attacking them now was the strange and cruel witchcraft sect. Under her sleeves, Yindai subconsciously clenched her fists. She stared at the dark star ice serpent that was wrapped in black fog. At that moment, the roiling black mist with terrifying corrosive properties froze on the spot, as though it had been frozen in time. Then, traces of white frost wrapped around the black fog. The dark star ice serpent swept out its body, breaking it apart and causing countless fragments to explode in all directions. It looked up, its eyes locking onto the witchcraft sect's spirit beast. Silver runes began to flow in its eyes. In the next moment, the black fog that wrapped around the witchcraft sect's spirit beast began to violently tumble about. One could clearly feel a bone-chilling aura emitting from within. Roar. There was an angry roar mixed with pain. Within the tumbling black fog, the dark star ice serpent's blood-red eyes locked onto its target. Although the icy cold aura soon dissipated, everyone knew that in a situation where it had taken the initiative to launch a surprise attack, the witchcraft sect's spirit beast had been suppressed instead. In that moment, many people looked at the dark star ice serpent with surprise in their eyes. It had instantly broken through the witchcraft sect's spirit beast attack and then launched a counterattack without hesitation. During this process, the strength it displayed was far greater than expected. Could it be that it had something else hidden? Who? Yindai let out a deep breath. She discovered that at the same time, there were many others that had the same reaction as her. When their breaths overlapped, it was especially obvious. Her face flushed red, and she secretly blamed herself. Others didn't know her teacher's strength, so it was understandable for them to be unsteady. But she was her teacher's only disciple, so how could she be the same as everyone else? She nervously looked at her teacher. He seemed to sense something and turned his head to look at her. His expression was as light as ever, without a single ripple in his eyes. Thinking about it, in her teacher's eyes, this was a minor matter not worth mentioning at all. The dark star ice serpent that he had personally raised could withstand any challenge. Yundai's heart became increasingly ashamed. Because of today's atmosphere, her unstable heart actually began to calm down. Chapter 733. 7 great sects had gathered in Dragon City to compete in the arena. The Hidden Fog sect was only one of them. It wasn't the center of everyone's attention. Since the Dark Star Ice Serpent was tyrannically strong, he wouldn't provoke it for the time being. The grudges between the 7 great sects were deep and deep. They would eventually find a suitable target to attack. Hum! A clear and melodious sword cry resounded through the surroundings. It was like a piercingly cold river that recklessly surged forward beneath a thick layer of ice in midwinter. It slid past everyone's minds and brought along a shiver that reached the depths of their souls. The Limitless Sword sect's spirit beasts attacked, and their sword intent locked onto Radiant's temple. The Shadow Clan's dragon tooth had been stolen from them, so how could they not care? The Phoenix Lawn's eyes were indifferent and dignified. It swung its sword at the sky and spread its wings to protect itself. A faint white light was emitted from its feathers. The invisible sword slashed down. White light floated around Foam Wan's body. Tiny ripples appeared, like the surface of a lake being blown by a breeze. Gentle, calm, and unhurried, she resisted all the destructive power. In the next moment, the Phoenix Lawn spread its wings, and a gale suddenly rose above the 9 heavens, forming a huge whirlpool. Dark cyan wind blades slashed down, dense like a summer storm. Since the Limitless Sword sect wanted to use Radiant's temple to establish their might, they naturally had to withstand their counterattack. The sword chime became even louder, as if there was a giant sword standing in the world. The body of the sword trembled incessantly, and the torrential sword light whizzed out like a river bursting its banks. The azure wind saber and the silver-white sword ray collided violently in the air, tearing the space apart and forming countless tiny cracks, causing the cultivators outside the arena to exclaim. The spirit beast that Qing Yuan's zone condensed into was a cyan ape. It clenched its fists and beat its chest. Dong! 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 The deep sound was like the roar of a big drum. When the sound wave spread out, it stirred up the spirit energy of the heavens and earth, the illusionary image of a mountain range condensed in the air, as if it had fallen from the 9 heavens, straight towards the direction of Mount Fuyao. As the azure water rippled, a large fish wantonly flipped about. However, the difference was that this fish had horns on its head, and the long whiskers at the side of its lips were golden, undulating and undulating in the water. It was a dragonfish with the blood of the dragon clan flowing through its veins. As it stared at the azure ape, its long tail slammed viciously into the azure waves. Rumble between the heavens and the earth. There was the sound of raging waves, as if one was in a sea. In the void, a giant wave appeared out of thin air, with the power to crush all things, and collided with the suppressive mountain shadow. The two sides were in the middle of a fierce battle. The faint and hazy moonlight suddenly shone down from the sky, enveloping the mountains and the waves. One of the 7 great sects, the most low-key and mysterious Moonkeep Tower, made its move. In the blink of an eye, it had become a 3-way melee. Before they even entered the Colosseum, the clash between the 7 great sects had already begun. They all wanted to suppress their opponents and gain more attention. At the same time, the incarnations formed by the 7 spirit beasts continued to advance toward the center of Dragon City, gradually approaching the edge of the Colosseum. The large number of cultivators outside witnessed the exciting battle between the spirit beasts. Their eyes lit up and they gradually made up their minds. The battle in the Colosseum was a battle between the seven great sects, but it was also closely related to the cultivators who watched the battle. It was the collective gift from Dragon City. Every time the Colosseum was opened, the final winner would be called the champion, and the seven sects would be the final winners. When the time came, the cultivators who supported the champion would obtain a baptism of dragon energy. After absorbing it, it would be greatly beneficial to their cultivation. Thus, choosing a side to support was a very important matter. A cultivator needed to make their own judgment. Once they made their choice, they couldn't change it midway. As the seven great sects approached, the cultivators surrounding the Colosseum began to move. They moved towards the direction they had chosen, leaving seven entrances to the Colosseum. I choose the Limitless Sword Sect. I also choose the Limitless Sword Sect. That spirit beast that is cultivated for over 5,000 years is terrifyingly strong. I can definitely win. Otherwise, I am more optimistic about that Phoenix Luan from Radiance Temple. After it mutated, it was able to stir up the stars. This is a phenomenon that only a king of beasts can have. The Blue Origin Sect's Great Ape can mobilize the spiritual strength of the heavens and earth to condense the nine heavens mountain shadow. Its strength cannot be underestimated. Mount Fuyao's dragonfish has the ability to control the water essence of the heavens and earth. Its tail can stir up great waves. It is also extremely fierce. The Witchcraft sect seems to have suffered a setback, but with their secretive style, they are certainly hiding something. Moonkeep Tower can control Moonlight spirit beasts. Their movements are unpredictable, so they must be formidable. Everyone began to speak, but very few people mentioned the Hidden Fog sect. It wasn't that the Dark Star Ice serpent wasn't strong enough, but that it had been exposed ahead of time. The other six sects would inevitably guard against it. Originally, with the strength that the Dark Star Ice serpent had displayed, it had the qualifications to compete for the position of champion. But because of the Hidden Fog sect's stupidity, it had become the side with the smallest chance. Unless they had a deep connection to the Hidden Fog sect, or there was some other reason, no one would choose them. After everyone chose their respective locations, the Limitless Sword sect, Witchcraft sect, and Radiance Temple had the most supporters. The Blue Origin sect, Mount Fuyao, and Moonkeep Tower were slightly behind. The Hidden Fog sect's square formation had less than 30% of the total number of cultivators. As for the Limitless Sword sect, they only had a bit more than 20%. As the division became clear, the cultivators that stood with the Hidden Fog sect began to reveal expressions of unease and hesitation. In the crowd, a white-haired and wrinkled old man stamped his feet. He lowered his voice and said, "Although my family has received graciousness from the Hidden Fog sect, we cannot risk the future of our juniors. Follow behind me. We're going to the Limitless Sword sect's square formation." Behind him, the two young cultivators were pleasantly surprised as they hurriedly followed the old man out. It's not that we don't want to support you, but that this is the trend of the times. If we continue to persist, it won't be of any use. The middle-aged cultivator sighed. He turned and walked towards the Witchcraft sect. The number of cultivators that chose a side was the most important factor in determining who obtained the first position. And the true meaning of the first position was that one could obtain immunity from the first round of battles. In this competition between the seven great sects, there would always be an empty team in pairs. This was the privilege that the first position holder could enjoy. It was also because of this that the opening ceremony of the arena was so exciting. The seven great sects all wanted to take first place. Once one obtained immunity from the first round, not only would they be able to wait for the enemy to exhaust themselves, but they would also be able to watch the spirit beasts of the six sects fight from the sidelines and obtain information. There was no need to explain the significance of this. Although obtaining the first position didn't necessarily mean that one could become the champion, the chances were much higher. Regarding this point, the results of the previous Beast King Wars were the best proof. Today, the Hidden Fog sect had already revealed their decline, and they no longer had any chance of obtaining the first position. Those that wanted to obtain Dragon City's gift naturally weren't willing to stay behind. The number of people decreased again and again. Finally, there were less than 100 people left in the hidden fog sect square formation. Facing the playful gazes from all around, these people were filled with bitterness and had no choice but to lower their heads. They all had their own reasons, and they had no choice but to express their support for the hidden fog sect. Otherwise, as long as there was even the slightest possibility, they wouldn't have stayed behind. Dragon City's gift. How many people had worked hard to travel hundreds of millions of miles to come here in order to fight for this lucky chance? But they were doomed to return empty-handed. With the sound of footsteps, the cultivators of the 7 great sects arrived at the arena at nearly the same time. At the front, the hidden fog sect master's complexion changed and a gloomy look appeared in his eyes. Behind him, everyone's eyes widened. After a moment of shock, they were left speechless with embarrassment. In the massive Dragon City, it was unknown how many cultivators had gathered here, but there were less than 100 people standing in the hidden fog sect's camp. And of these people, almost all of them had connections. It was truly shameful. As for the reason, everyone already knew. After entering Dragon City for several days, it was hard not to hear about it. Some eyes fell on Chinyu. After all, on the day they entered the city, he was the one who had controlled the Dark Star Ice Serpent to attack. It was inevitable that there would be some resentment. However, because of Chinyu's status as a Grandmaster, they only revealed a little bit of it and didn't dare to say a single word. Yindai sensed the changes in the expressions of the hidden fog sect people. Her breathing deepened and anger appeared on her face. These people had gone too far. On that day, it was clearly the hidden fog sect that had asked her teacher to help them restore face. But now they were complaining instead. If her teacher knew this would happen, he would have just stood by and watched as they were defeated and embarrassed. Of course, Yindai had selectively forgotten that she had agreed with her teacher on that day to teach the witchcraft sect a lesson. The hidden fog sect master coughed. He turned and cupped his hands together. "Mister, I'll leave everything to you." With things having come to this point, there was no use in blaming him. He could only choose to believe in Chinyu and help the hidden fog sect reach the end. After all, this was a true Grandmaster realm expert. Hearing the sect master's reminder, the hidden fog sect people regained their composure. They quickly restrained their emotions and relaxed their complexions. That's right, they had a Grandmaster helping them. Even if the other sects knew of the Dark Star Ice Serpent's strength ahead of time, they still had a chance. Beneath the black robes, Chinyu had a calm expression. "Sect Master, rest assured that I have my own plans." Who could have guessed that outside of Dragon City, he had deliberately used the conflict with the witchcraft sect to expose his strength? The Dark Star Ice Serpent's strength attribute. If it weren't for this, how could he have given them such a pleasant surprise at the critical moment? This opponent was certainly the Dark Parliament. To put it bluntly, he didn't place these people from the 7 great sects in his eyes at all. In the Beast King War, if the hidden fog sect wanted to win, Chinyu had no other choice. How could he not be diligent? As for the hidden fog sect people, he could feel the faint emotions they revealed, but he didn't care at all. In the end, both sides were only partners. Moreover, he didn't have much of a favorable impression of the hidden fog sect to begin with. After this cooperation, they would never see each other again. Or, even if they did, they would only be passers-by. Was there a need for him to care about them? This Beast King War is truly interesting. It hasn't even officially begun, and one side has already been eliminated. The witchcraft sect master wore rainbow-colored robes. He didn't seem funny at all. Rather, he was dignified, leaving one in awe. At this time, he slowly spoke. Although he didn't point out a name, as long as one wasn't blind, they could see who he was targeting. The witchcraft sect and the hidden fog sect had accumulated grudges for many years. Although they seemed peaceful on the surface, they actually clashed in secret. Their hands were stained with the blood of the other. Now that there was a chance to strike the hidden fog sect while they were down, the witchcraft sect master naturally wouldn't miss this chance. Chapter 734. Outside Dragon City, the 2 sects had already clashed on the flying boat. The witchcraft sect had taken the initiative to attack, but in the end they had been suppressed by the hidden fog sect's dark star-eye serpent. Not only had they not lost face, but they had been snubbed instead. Afterwards, at the Shadow Clan auction, the witchcraft sect had been played by that hateful and mysterious cultivator. They had lost all face and had become the laughingstock of all. Thus, the witchcraft sect was already filled with resentment, and now they were venting all of it on the hidden fog sect. All of them felt refreshed. They looked down from above, thinking that these people from the hidden fog sect had revealed their trump cards in a moment of anger. They were truly stupid, and now their intestines were green with regret. The Limitless Sword sect, Radiance Temple, Mount Fuyao, Blue Origin sect, Moonkeep Tower, and everyone else looked over, their expressions indifferent, no matter what angle they considered it from. It was a good thing for the witchcraft sect and the hidden fog sect to become enemies with each other. The Limitless Sword sect's master lightly said, "Everyone, since the arena has opened, there is no need to delay. After you and I enter, let's continue our battle." The Limitless Sword sect had never placed much importance on words. In this world, the only decisive factor was one's own strength. Of course, another reason was that the Limitless Sword sect had the most supporters. They already occupied the advantage, so they had to act as soon as possible. As long as they stepped into the arena, they would no longer be able to change their stance. The Limitless Sword sect's master's eyes shined. "Everyone, thank you for your trust in the Limitless Sword sect. My sect will not disappoint you. Please follow us into the beast fighting arena." He took the lead. Invisible stone steps seemed to rise beneath his feet. Step by step, he rose into the air until he finally landed on the Limitless Sword sect's round platform. The Limitless Sword sect's master didn't hesitate. He sat down on the stone chair at the very front. Every movement he made exuded a dignified and swift momentum, as if the position of champion was already in the bag. Behind him, the cultivators that supported the Limitless Sword sect all landed on the giant stone chairs. Each chair could hold nearly 1,000 people. From this, it could be seen just how massive it was. The witchcraft sect master sneered, a cold light flashing in his eyes. He was dissatisfied with the Limitless Sword sect's actions, but he didn't say anything. He waved his hand and led the cultivators of his sect into the arena. The Limitless Sword sect had many supporters, but their witchcraft sect also had many supporters. Although there was a gap, it was not impossible to catch up. After all, although the number of supporters was an important factor in the ownership of the first position, it was not the only key point. No one knew who would emerge victorious. The hidden fog sect master only faintly furrowed his eyebrows before composing himself. He had been a bit quiet today, as if he had been disturbed by the atmosphere and wasn't in a good mood. He exhaled and said, "Let's go in too." The people from the hidden fog sect sighed inwardly. They didn't have any extravagant hopes of obtaining a buy on the first day. They only hoped that the dark star-eye serpent would give them a pleasant surprise once the battle began. However, when the other 6 sects set out, they all had many supporters and their momentum was overwhelming. When it was the hidden fog sect's turn, there were less than 100 people. If there was no comparison, then there was no harm. Even though the hidden fog sect cultivators tried their best to maintain their calm, their faces still felt hot. This situation was indeed very awkward. When the 7 sects entered the arena, this contrast reached its peak. There were less than 100 supporters, each one standing on an empty chair. It was like a delicious meat pie with lots of fillings. But when it came to the hidden fog sect, it was missing a piece. The cultivators of the other sects glanced over with amusement. Although they didn't mock them like the witchcraft sect did, they were all thinking the same thing. In today's opening ceremony, there was no hope for the hidden fog sect to compete for the first position. Behind Radiance Temple's round platform, on the first giant stone chair, the area with the best view, the people of the Shadow Clan had separated out of space. But at this time, no one expressed any dissatisfaction. This was because everyone knew that the lucky and mysterious Shadow Clan Sanus was among them. If even the 7 great sects had to send gifts, then how could an existence that worked hard to build relationships be ordinary? At this time, a female cultivator flew up from the round platform. She wore a snow-white dress that didn't have a single blemish. Her skin was fair, and her temperament was like that of an immortal. She landed outside the area that the Shadow Clan had separated out and warmly said, "On the orders of my sect master, I invite your Highness Saintess to enter the round platform to watch the battle." The Shadow Clan people scattered to reveal Zhou Li. She wore an exquisite dress, and her hair was combed up. The phantom of a dragon swam between her eyebrows, adding a touch of nobility to her already beautiful appearance. She nodded slightly and said, "I'll have to trouble Fairy Maiden to tell the sect master that Zhou Li is not a cultivator of Radiance Temple and doesn't wish to break the rules of the arena. She can stay here." The female cultivator smiled. She didn't insist. "All right." She turned and flew away. The Shadow Clan Saintess was optimistic about Radiance Temple. It was clear that she would be able to set a good example and pull in many cultivators. This could be considered helpful to Radiance Temple. Thus there was this scene of her returning the favor. Since Zhou Li wasn't willing, then he would respect her choice. Of course, this didn't mean that this matter was over. After the Beast King War, no matter what the result was, Radiance Temple would use this as an excuse to continue contacting Zhou Li. If they could be on good terms with the Shadow Clan Saintess, then it would be beneficial to Radiance Temple. Jiyan smiled as he looked at Zhou Li calmly dealing with the situation. His fondness for her nearly overflowed. She was indeed born to be a noble person. Her learning speed was extremely fast. However, he wouldn't say anything, nor would he say anything. Zhou Li already knew of his identity. The two of them were now well matched, and their relationship was becoming increasingly harmonious. As long as he let nature take its course, success would follow its natural course. Zhou Li, today's opening ceremony was quite wonderful. The only pity is that the Hidden Fog sect was too impatient and ruined their good situation. They have already been eliminated early in the struggle for first place. No wonder my father once said that the Hidden Fog sect is getting worse with each generation and that there are signs of their decline. In this Beast King War, the Hidden Fog sect will have many disputes to deal with. If their ranking is too poor, I fear they will lose several pieces of their flesh. In my opinion, if the Hidden Fog sect doesn't have a pillar to support them, then I fear it won't be too many years before they fall into decline. Zhou Li slowly nodded. She swept her eyes around and was startled. She frowned, a bit of hesitation in her eyes. Then, she shook her head. She must have been overthinking things. How could he possibly appear in the Hidden Fog sect? Moreover, looking at where this person was standing, it was clear he had an extremely high status. It should only be their appearance that was similar. After all, this world was vast, and there were trillions upon trillions of humans. It was possible to find two people with the exact same appearance and figure. Qingyu turned around and whispered several words into Yundai's ear. She nodded and turned to leave. Not long after, Yundai returned with a jade slip in her hand. "Teacher, I've already inquired about the matter of the first-place seat in the arena. But, with her teacher's status, how could she not know about such an important matter?" Doubt flashed in her heart. Yundai didn't think too much about it. She lowered her voice and began to explain. Beneath the black robes, Qing Yu's eyes flashed. After hearing "first day," he knew the crux of the matter. This was simply cheating. Whoever obtained the first-place seat would have a much higher chance of becoming the champion. But now, because the Dark Star-Eyed Serpent had exposed its strength ahead of time, no one favored the Hidden Fog sect. In the struggle for first place, they had fallen into an absolute disadvantage. But even though Qingyu knew of today's situation, he didn't regret his actions that day. Compared to scheming against the Dark Parliament, it was worth it even if he lost the first day. Moreover, there was still a chance to reverse the current situation. Qingyu looked up. Beneath the black robes, his deep eyes fell on the arena. The Sword Sect Master looked around, his awe-inspiring momentum overflowing. "Everyone, if there are no objections, then today the Limitless Sword Sect will throw out a brick to attract jade." On the stone chairs in the back, the eyes of the supporters brightened. They all revealed looks of anticipation. Without waiting for a reply, the Sword Sect Master flicked his sleeves. With a flash of light, a strange beast appeared in front of him. It was shaped like a lizard, and its entire body was covered in crystalline scales. Beneath the sunlight, it shined with a dazzling halo. At this time, its 2 feet were on the ground, walking straight like a person. And what was even more surprising was that its forelimbs were grasping a long sword. The surface of the sword was sparkling like a flowing lake. Wisps of dense coldness immediately flowed out from it. It turned its head and glanced at the sword sect master. The latter slowly nodded. In the next moment, a sword light flashed. It was as dazzling as the arrival of a sun, so bright that no one could look straight at it. Then, the sword light was like a waterfall. It pierced through space and crashed into the arena. Countless people cried out in alarm. They could feel the aura of annihilation coming from this sword. It was truly worthy of being called the Sword Sect Master. It was rumored that it had cultivated for over 5,000 years and comprehended sword intent on its own. Just how terrifying was its strength? Ripples suddenly appeared in the space above the arena. 10 rings of light appeared, gradually deepening in color. The first layer was pale white, and the 10th was pitch black like ink. At this time, sword light fell down from the heavens, cutting into the rings of light. It cut through the first 5 layers, but when it reached the 6th layer, the rings were as dark as fog. As the sword light fell in, it violently trembled. The sword sect master clenched his fists. In the next moment, there was a loud explosion as the 6th layer of light shattered. "Good," he shouted out loud, a smile on his face. The sword sect cultivators behind him all had looks of ecstasy. Breaking 6 layers with 1 sword and adding on the most supporters, it would at least be rated as a 7-ring beast. At this moment, as the sword light dissipated, the rings of light disappeared in the air. A round stone flew out and was caught by the sword sect master. He looked down, and the smile on his face became even brighter. It was indeed a 7-ring beast. It had to be known that in the last 3 years of the Beast King battle, 7-ring was the highest result in the fight for first place. No wonder the sword sect cultivators were so excited. It meant that they had almost locked in victory in advance. The Limitless Sword Sect really lives up to its name. They didn't betray our trust. Ha ha. I can't wait for the gift from Dragon City. Cheers erupted from the crowd at the back. On the other hand, the other 6 sects were silent. Looking at the cheering sword sect people, most of them had bitter expressions. The sword sect master clenched the stone bead, his eyes flashing. "Everyone, if you don't have the confidence, don't waste your energy." He was full of confidence, and forfeiting was allowed in this round. The sword sect beast made its move. Its sword pierced through the air and was rated as a 7-ring beast. In the silence, no one thought that the second to make a move against the sword sect's pressure would be Moonkeep Tower. Chapter 735. The Moonkeep Tower master that everyone looked at was a tall and slender woman with an extremely ordinary appearance. This was a rare sight amongst high-level cultivators. In a long life of cultivation, as long as one wanted to change their appearance, it wasn't difficult at all. There were even times when one would uncontrollably try to beautify themselves. For instance, Qin Yu's current appearance had undergone a great change. This was a hidden benefit that naturally came with the rise in his level of life. The Moonkeep Tower Master's current appearance was either an illusion or she was deliberately suppressing the changes in her appearance. No matter which possibility it was, in Qin Yu's opinion, she was a formidable existence. For a woman to not even care about her own appearance, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her terrifying. Her will must be extremely firm. If such a person dared to follow behind the Limitless Sword Sect despite the pressure, it could be seen that she had some degree of confidence in herself. At this time, she lifted a hand and slashed forwards. A crack appeared in space, and a black shadow howled out. Moonkeep Tower's strongest spirit beast was exposed in front of everyone. Low cries sounded out from all directions. Moon-worshipping beast! No, this isn't an ordinary moon-worshipping beast. Look at the mark between its eyebrows. That is clearly a shrunken crescent moon. Everyone, Have you discovered that after this beast appeared, the light between the heavens and earth dimmed a little? This is interfering with yin and yang. It hadn't truly emitted its aura, but just by standing here it had already interfered with the revolution of yin and yang. This was an ability that only top spirit beasts could possess. It was comparable to the Phoenix Luan from Radiance Temple that could stir up the stars. Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder Moonkeep Tower dared to be the second to attack. It was because they had enough confidence in themselves. No one dared to underestimate a spirit beast that could interfere with yin and yang. A cold light flashed deep in the Sword Sect Master's eyes. "Begin," the Moonkeep Tower Master lightly said. The moon-worshipping beast faced the arena and prostrated itself on the ground. It emitted different syllables of varying lengths, each one filled with a mystical charm. In the skies above Dragon City, the light gradually dimmed. Darkness sprinkled down like thick ink, submerging everything. Soon after, a speck of light appeared in the darkness. It was cold, desolate, and carried an aura of eternity and eternity. Radiance spread outwards. An enormous full moon suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes, just like that. It was located in the middle of the sky, temporarily replacing the great sun's function. Its slightly cold moonlight scattered over all of Dragon City. The moon-worshipping beast raised its head. The crescent moon between its brows lit up like a whirlpool, attracting the moonlight that filled the entire Dragon City. Thus, after a short period of light, the huge Dragon City once again fell into darkness. The endless moonlight gathered in the sky above the Colosseum, becoming brighter and brighter. In the end, it seemed to surpass the sun, turning into a huge, blazing fireball. The light was so bright that people couldn't look at it directly. Countless cultivators were blinded by the piercing moonlight. Tears streamed down their red and swollen eyes, but none of them were willing to close their eyes. They were all waiting for the next heaven-shaking, earth-shattering blow. Moonbow! It was unknown which cultivator cried out in alarm. Everyone's heart skipped a beat as tears flowed down their cheeks. Ignoring the burning moonlight, they tried their best to open their eyes wide. And indeed, in that blazing moonlight, the phantom of a bow appeared. It was like an invisible hand was slowly pulling it back. Thus, the blinding light rapidly vanished from sight. It gathered on the bowstring, turning into a small and delicate arrow. Whoosh! The sound of breaking air rang out. But it was far too fast. It seemed as if it had just started before it came to an abrupt stop. In the Colosseum, the 10 halos that had vanished reappeared. The moonlight arrow broke through with unstoppable force, instantly shattering the first 5 halos. The 6th halo of light was dark and gloomy like fog. Now it violently tumbled about like raging waves. The moonlight arrow was so fast that the naked eye couldn't follow it. It appeared in front of everyone once more. Half of it had sunk into the 6th halo of light, and the arrowhead was trembling. This scene caused everyone in the Colosseum to suck in a breath of cold air. Countless eyes widened and their jaws nearly hit the ground. At this time, the moonlight arrow's trembling arrowhead began to break apart. The nervous sword faction members were overjoyed, but their complexions immediately changed. This was because the collapse of the arrow didn't mean that it had lost strength. On the contrary, it was like a booster that had been ignited. The arrowhead instantly tore through the dark and gloomy 6th halo of light. The arrowhead ruthlessly smashed into the 7th halo of light and then collapsed, vanishing into nothingness. The 10 halos vanished, and a round stone rapidly flew forwards. The Moonkeep Tower Master lifted a hand and caught it. Although it was immediately put away, the 7 rings on it were still clearly visible to everyone. 7 rings. 7 rings. Another 7 rings. In the past 3 Beast King Wars, they had suppressed all sides with results. Now, 2 of them had appeared. Did this mean that today would be a fierce struggle between tigers and dragons? Even if the following 5 sects didn't perform well enough, they would still be able to gather together a great drama today. There was only one first seat. Two sects were tied at 7 rings. They would need to undergo a battle to determine the final victor. The sword faction master had an indifferent expression. His eyes were as cold as a sword's edge. Moonkeep Tower Master, good methods. I admire you. Beside him, a lizard beast wielding a long sword locked its eyes onto the moon-worshipping beast. Invisible sword intent shook around it, ripping apart space and leaving long cracks in it. The moon-worshipping beast's eyes were as calm as a lake, without the slightest ripple. It looked back, and the two spirit beasts' gazes met. There was no other movement. The air between the heavens and earth suddenly stagnated. It was like flowing water in the middle of winter, about to freeze in the extreme cold. Good. This is truly worthy of being the Moonkeep Tower. I knew it. The most low-key and mysterious member of the 7 great sects must have a deep background. Behind them, the cultivators of the moon-worshipping tower were wild with joy and cheering. When the Limitless Sword sect obtained 7 rings, they had already given up all hope. Who would have thought that there would be a reversal of fortune? Although they still needed to undergo a fierce battle to determine the final victor, at least they had a high chance of winning. It had condensed the legendary moon bow, a supreme weapon hidden between the heavens and earth. This moon-worshipping beast of the Moonkeep Tower had the qualifications to compete for the position of Beast King. As the moon-worshipping tower was celebrating, the atmosphere in the arena became even more gloomy. The cultivators of the 5 sects that hadn't yet made their move all felt oppressed. That was 7 rings. After the Limitless Sword sect and moon-worshipping tower, who would dare to be the third to make a move? If their performance wasn't good and they were compared to the other 2 sects, they would be stripped of all face in front of everyone and their reputation would be swept to the ground. The brief silence was soon broken. The witchcraft sect coldly sneered. Since none of you are willing to go first, then I will be the third. He stepped on the ground and black energy gushed out, turning into a giant black hole. With a cruel roar, an incomparably fierce giant scorpion that was dozens of feet tall appeared in front of everyone. Its eyes were blood red like a tumbling sea of blood. Its entire body was filled with an aura of slaughter and annihilation, as if it wanted to destroy everything it saw. The scorpion's momentum was great, but facing 7 rings, the witchcraft sect master felt a sense of oppression. He took a deep breath and lifted a finger. The dozens of feet tall, fierce, and cruel giant crab trembled. It turned its head, the witchcraft sect master's figure reflected in its eyes. It roared out loud, as if it were filled with fear and resentment. The witchcraft sect master was expressionless. He looked at the giant crab's blood-red eyes. After several breaths of silence, he looked away and roared, a deep sorrow in his voice. The giant crab's abdomen wriggled, and 5 white eggs fell to the ground. With the sound of tearing silk, 5 young scorpions drilled out. Their shells were pink and translucent, and one could clearly see all sorts of organs wriggling within them. After being born ahead of time, the 5 young scorpions cried out in panic. As if they could feel a threat, they broke out of their eggs and fled in all directions. But to their mother, the strength of these 5 young scorpions was negligible. Its blood-red eyes swept over the fleeing young scorpions, and its giant tail struck out like a bolt of lightning. The stinger on its tail instantly pierced through the body of a young scorpion. It screamed in pain as it was lifted up and brought to the giant crab's mouth where it was swallowed. The young scorpion's pitiful cries came to an abrupt end. What followed was the sound of chewing. The giant crab's blood-red eyes became even deeper. Like before, after several breaths of time, the 5 young scorpions were cleanly swallowed. Blood-red veins appeared on the surface of the giant crab's thick black carapace. They were like meridians that gathered all the blood in its body to the giant crab's tail, making it seem as if it were soaked in blood. Roar! With a violent roar, the giant crab's tail fiercely rose up. The scarlet stinger was like a demonic sword that fell from the heavens, ruthlessly stabbing towards the arena. 10 halos of light appeared, overlapping each other in layers. Their color deepened from light white, gradually turning pitch black. Now, the first 4 halos of light had been shattered by the scorpion's tail. The 5th halo trembled, but didn't immediately disperse. As this scene fell into everyone's eyes, some people felt their hearts skip a beat. Some people let out sighs of relief, and some people revealed looks of ridicule. From the looks of it, the witchcraft sect breaking through the 5th halo was their limit. Even if they added in their supporters, the most they could obtain was 6 rings. They no longer had the qualifications to compete for first place. The chances of them obtaining victory in the Beast King War were slim to the extreme. The witchcraft sect master's complexion darkened. Then, a cruel light flashed in his eyes, and a short syllable came from his lips. The giant scorpion roared in pain. Its entire tail exploded. There was no flesh or blood that splashed outwards, but it ignited, turning into raging blood-red flames. The 5th and 6th halos of light instantly shattered. The scorpion's stinger stabbed into the 7th halo, causing it to tremble. Unfortunately, the stinger had used up most of its strength and was powerless to continue forwards. The round stone was caught by the witchcraft sect master. The 7 halos were eye-catching, but he didn't seem happy at all. With a flick of his sleeves, he put away the giant shattertail scorpion and sat back down with a gloomy expression. The cultivators from the Limitless Sword sect and Moonkeep Tower relaxed. Luckily, they hadn't broken through the 7th halo, otherwise their first-place position would have been taken away by the witchcraft sect. Now, although the 3 sects had 7 rings, the giant scorpion was already severely wounded and was powerless to compete with them. Humph humph. The witchcraft sect had miscalculated this time. They hadn't been able to break through the 7th halo. In this Beast King War, they feared that they would be ranked at the bottom like the Hidden Fog sect. But no matter what, 3 7-ring masters were competing against each other. This was an extremely rare sight since the start of the Beast King War. The oppression this brought to the remaining 4 sects could be imagined. Sitting on a giant stone chair, Zhou Li's eyes flashed. She believed that the Shadow Clan Patriarch's warning had a deeper meaning. In this situation, shouldn't Radiance Temple make their move? Before she finished her thoughts, the incomparably beautiful and cold Radiance Temple Master opened her red lips and said, "Radiance Temple will be the 4th to make a move." The Phoenix Wand's true form appeared. Its wings were nearly 1,000 feet wide, and its feathers were sparkling and translucent. Its eyes were noble and indifferent as it looked down at the people below. At this time, it spread its wings, and a giant vortex appeared. Strong winds roared within, like a tsunami. This was different from the battle with the Limitless Sword sect's strange beasts. Although the wind within the vortex was wild, there were no wind blades cutting out. Everyone understood that this Phoenix Wand was gathering its strength. To put it in simpler terms, it was gathering its ultimate move. Suddenly, the entire vortex shattered, as if it had been swept away by a terrifying sword. It was neatly cut in half from the middle. Immediately after, a green longsword appeared and slashed down at the Colosseum. Wind sword. Shocked roars sounded out. Countless cultivators stared with wide eyes. This was because this was the second supreme weapon hidden between the heavens and earth to be summoned today. Moonbow in front, wind sword behind. 6 halos cut out. The wind sword didn't stop as it arrived in the 7th level. Its color was like the curtain of night that had just descended. The clear and thin darkness was like flowing water that could annihilate and offset all energy. The sword blade submerged into the 7 halos. The wind sword cried out without end, causing the howling of the wind between the heavens and earth to rise, sweeping outwards. Who? The cultivators of the Limitless Sword sect, Moonkeep Tower, and Witchcraft sect all let out sighs of relief. It seemed that the wind sword wouldn't be able to break through the 7th level. Even so, it was already an established fact that Radiance Temple had obtained a 7-ring result. Yin Dai's eyes widened. She cried out, so fierce. It was indeed fierce. As the wind sword cut into the 7th level, it trembled without end. Just from this alone, it was a level stronger than the previous 3 sections. Chapter 736. He wasn't the only one to realize this. At this time, the Limitless Sword Sect Master, the Moonkeep Tower Master, and the Witchcraft Sect Master all had dignified and gloomy expressions. With a bird cry, motes of starlight sprinkled down from the heavens. In the blink of an eye, they fused into the Phoenix Wand's body. With the help of the power of the stars, the feathers on its surface instantly turned a pure blue color. The howling of the wind, swords became even louder. They were like saw-teeth, slowly sinking into the Phoenix Wand. Bang! With a deep explosion, the 7th layer of light rings shattered. At this moment, the massive arena fell deathly silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on Radiance Temple. As they looked at that incomparably beautiful and cold figure, they were all absent-minded. No one thought that Radiance Temple, whose performance was so normal, would actually be the greatest dark horse. The wind swords had dispersed and disappeared, but they had already helped Radiance Temple obtain their best results so far. 8 rings. Moreover, in the current situation, even if the 3 sects hadn't made a move yet, they had basically locked in victory ahead of time and obtained the qualifications to skip the first day. Cheers soared to the heavens. Jolie stood in the small space created by the Shadow Clan. As she listened to the excited voices around her, she smiled. As she expected, the Shadow Clan's patriarch was able to sense Radiance Temple's strength ahead of time. From this, it could be seen that the Shadow Clan was far stronger than they appeared on the surface. To Jolie, this was good news. The stronger the Shadow Clan was, the higher her status as a saintess would be. The Radiance Temple Master lifted her palm, a stone bead resting between her fingers. There were 8 rings on it, shining with a faint halo. Everyone, thank you for letting me win. Her lips curved up in a smile that could topple nations. But at this moment, no one was immersed in her beauty. Everyone was shocked by Foam Wand's strength. The Limitless Sword Sect, Moonkeep Tower, and Witchcraft Sect that had obtained 7 rings were all silent. Bitterness and helplessness tumbled in their chests. A single ring was the difference between the heavens and earth. No matter how unwilling they were doomed to miss out on the first-place seat. The cheering supporters of the 3 sects bitterly smiled again and again. Some of them even cursed in their hearts. If they had been defeated at the start then, that would have been fine. But they had been given such great hope, and now they had been kicked into the abyss. Who would feel good about this? Sigh. With a sigh, the Blue Origin Sect Master helplessly said, "The results of the 8 rings have already come out. The Blue Origin lineage will no longer try. The position of first place belongs to Radiance Temple." With the good relationship between the Blue Origin Sect and Radiance Temple, it was understandable if they chose to give up knowing that they had no hope of surpassing the other. Being able to preserve the strength of the spirit beasts in the sect was one of the reasons, but being afraid of losing face in public was also another reason. Of the 4 sects in their hands, 3 had 7 rings and 1 had 8 rings. If they only got 6 rings, or even lower when it was their turn to fight, wouldn't that be utterly humiliating? He might as well simply admit defeat and take advantage of the situation to flatter Radiance Temple and pull their relationship closer. If Radiance Temple had a buy in this Beast King war, then with the strength of this Phoenix Wand, it was highly likely that they would become a champion. There was no time to lose in currying favor. Mountain Lord Fu Yao cursed in his heart. This group of bootlickers from the Qingyuan sect really had a sharp tongue. Just now, he was about to open his mouth, but someone else beat him to it. None of them were fools. Even if they sacrificed half the lives of the sect's spirit beasts, they would be thankful if they could obtain 7 rings. It was meaningless. Radiance Temple's Phoenix Wand has suppressed all others and obtained an 8-ring result. Mountain Lord Fu Yao is ashamed of his inferiority. Who didn't know how to flatter others? Mountain Lord Fu Yao and the Blue Origin Sect Master's eyes met in midair. They smiled and nodded. As for how many times they were cursing each other in their hearts, only they knew. In the blink of an eye, the only ones that hadn't made a move in the arena were the hidden fog sect side. In the awkward silence, everyone's eyes gradually revealed ridicule. In the hidden fog sect's camp, there were less than 100 backdoor supporters. In the final result, they were nearly negligible. In other words, no matter how fierce the dark star ice serpent was, even if it broke through the 7th ring of light like the phoenix wand, it would only obtain a 7-ring result. In this situation, what were they waiting for if they didn't hurry up and admit defeat? Elder C's complexion paled. He lowered his voice and reminded, "Sect Master." The other sect elders also had unkind expressions. They had long since given up hope of obtaining first place. They might as well simply give up. Why provoke ridicule? In these past years, the hidden fog sect's authority had been scattered among the high-level figures. The sect master was only the highest authority in name. The hidden fog sect master looked at Elder C, his expression calm. Then he swept his eyes over the other elders and lightly said, "My sect does not intend to give up." His heart was as firm as iron. He would help the hidden fog sect obtain the right to abide on the first day. At that time, with Mr. Ning Qin's help, the hidden fog sect had a high chance of becoming the champion. But what a pity he originally wanted to wait until the most critical battle to play out this card. If he took action today, he feared he would be discovered. But in the current situation, he couldn't care about this. So what if they discovered him? He had already decided to give up his life. In the eyes of someone who had already decided to die, there was nothing to be afraid of. "Sect Master!" Several elders shouted out. If it weren't for them caring about their face, they likely would have asked, "What do you want to do to his face?" Didn't the hidden fog sect lose enough face today? If they gave up now, with the Blue Origin sect and Mount Fuyao in front of them, they would only be taking advantage of the situation. If they insisted on trying, wouldn't that mean they were dissatisfied with Radiance Temple? This wasn't just a matter of face, but also a great deal of their own interests. The elders decided that they couldn't allow the sect master to act recklessly again. If necessary, they would display a tough stance. But this time, their threats were useless. The hidden fog sect master said without expression, "I'm the sect master of the hidden fog sect and wield the highest authority. My decision is not to give up." Although he spoke to the elders, with the support of his cultivation, his voice reverberated throughout the arena, clearly entering everyone's ears. Across from him, Elder C and the others stiffened. The hidden fog sect master had directly placed the matter in the open. Unless they didn't care about the face of the sect and expose the internal conflicts of the sect to everyone, they couldn't continue to stop him. At this moment, the complexions of many people changed. As they looked at the hidden fog sect master, their eyes revealed a bit of admiration. In the current situation, to be able to withstand the pressure and make such a decision could be considered courageous and imposing. But there were even more people that revealed mocking expressions after a moment of silence. He clearly knew that this was meaningless and would even offend Radiance Temple, but he still wanted to forcefully take action. This decision was simply stupid. Was he borrowing today's situation to use outside pressure to suppress the sect elders that were at odds with him? If this was really the case, then for his own selfish gain, he would disregard the interests of the sect. That was even more despicable. It was clear that some hidden fog sect elders were thinking this. Their eyes became increasingly gloomy. Although they didn't continue speaking, they had already decided in their hearts that this matter wouldn't end here. Once they returned to Hidden Fog Mountain, they would settle the score once more. Perhaps Hufu was no longer suitable for the position of sect master. The Hidden Fog sect master's expression didn't change, as if he didn't feel the cold glares from the elders or the ridicule from those around him. He stood up and flicked his sleeves. The temperature in the air rapidly dropped. A white frost appeared on the ground and rapidly spread outwards. In the blink of an eye, a layer of ice appeared. In this cruel cold, the dark star ice serpent's massive figure began to slowly condense from illusory. Between its indifferent eyes, silver lines wove together. A single horn jutted out from its head like a spear, pointing towards the heavens. The hidden fog sect master sucked in a deep breath. At this time, a figure suddenly stepped forwards. He was startled for a moment before cupping his hands together and saying, "Mr. also wishes to persuade me to give up?" If this was really the case, then even if he wasn't willing, he still had to carefully consider it. Beneath the black robes, Yu shook his head. "No." The hidden fog sect master relaxed. "Thank you for your help, mister." Yu directly said, "This time, I will fight for you." "Ah!" The hidden fog sect master cried out. He immediately reacted and suppressed his excitement. "If so, then I'll have to trouble Mr. With Mr.'s status, since he asked to help on his own initiative, then he must have the confidence to do so." "Ha! It looks like I can still save my life for a critical moment so that I can die for the sect." Behind them, the group of unfriendly elders had a slight change in their expressions. Soon after, shock and anticipation appeared in their eyes. Yu deeply looked at Hu Fu and then turned towards the dark star, Ice Serpent. This incomparably powerful spirit beast immediately revealed a look of awe in its eyes. It respectfully laid down on the ground. This scene caused the originally noisy beast fighting coliseum to quickly quiet down, as though someone had pressed the mute button. Those that had been watching the hidden fog sect's internal strife suddenly had dignified expressions. As they looked at the black-robed figure, they subconsciously revealed awe. No one doubted the Dark Star Ice Serpent's strength. It had fought with the witchcraft sect's giant scorpion twice, and that was enough to prove that it had the qualifications to compete for the position of Beast King. It was only because it had revealed its strength ahead of time that no one favored it. But now, such an incomparably powerful spirit beast was actually respectfully lying on the ground, expressing its respect and submission to this person. No one was a fool, so they could naturally guess what this meant. Moreover, everyone could see the attitudes of the hidden fog sect master, Hu Fu, and the elders. They couldn't help but be surprised and shaken. When did such a powerhouse appear in the hidden fog sect? The Radiance Temple master's eyes narrowed. Faint traces of starlight flashed in her eyes. An 8-ring result was more than enough to lock in victory. But for some unknown reason, she felt a bit restless in her heart. She took a deep breath and suppressed all the fluctuations in her heart. There were 10 halos in the arena, and the disparity between each one was astonishing. To break through the 7th halo, even the Phoenix Wand could only barely do so by borrowing the power of the stars. Although the hidden fog sect's Dark Star Ice Serpent was strong, it absolutely couldn't accomplish this. Today, Radiance Temple had already taken the position of first place. In the crowd, Jolie subconsciously furrowed her eyebrows. Her eyes inevitably fell on the black-robed person once more. What followed was a suppressed sense of familiarity. "Jolie, do you know this person?" Ji-Yun asked with surprise. Jolie shook her head. "No, it's just that this person reminds me of an old friend. But he is only an ordinary person. It is impossible for him to appear here." Just as she finished speaking, her heart skipped a beat. With Qin Yu's status, he didn't have the qualifications to participate in the Shadow Clan's auction. But not only had he entered, but he had also caused such a great commotion. If it weren't for her asking Elder One Eye to help him escape, he would have likely died to the witchcraft sect. Following this logic, it wasn't impossible for Qin Yu to appear in the hidden fog sect and borrow the strength of the mysterious powerhouse behind him to force the entire hidden fog sect to bow their heads. Zhou Li's eyes sharpened. If this person really was Qin Yu, then he was simply seeking death. The Beast King War of the Seven Sects had far-reaching implications. Even the Shadow Clan didn't dare to interfere. They could only watch from the sidelines. So where did he find the courage to involve himself? Her thoughts raced. Jolie suddenly asked, "Radiance Temple Master, is the Temple Master's previous invitation still valid?" In the silence, although Zhou Li's voice wasn't loud, it was loud enough for everyone to hear. As Qin Yu walked to the side of the Dark Star Ice Serpent, he subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice. Their gazes met in midair. Chapter 737. The moment their eyes met, Jolie could confirm that the person beneath the black robe was Chinyu. There was no need for any other reason. He took a deep breath and the anger in his chest surged. Didn't he know his own identity? Did he really think that he would be able to pass through danger every time? This was the Beast Arena, the place where the 7 great sects fought. Even the Shadow Clan didn't dare to interfere, so there was no way she could save him. If there was an accident, he would definitely die. Damn it, just who was controlling Chinyu from behind? Why would an ordinary person be placed in such a dangerous situation? Jolie's eyes subconsciously swept over those from the Hidden Fog sect. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in his line of sight. Yindai. Why was she here? His thoughts raced. Jolie thought of that mysterious Mr. Ningqin. No one knew where he came from, but he actually possessed an extremely formidable strength. Could it be that he was the one controlling Chinyu from behind? But Chinyu was only an ordinary person, so how could he be chosen by Ningqin as a puppet? Jolie stiffened. She remembered that she had once recommended Chinyu to Feng Qing as Ningqin's disciple. Could the miss have already done this in private? No matter how she thought about it, there was only one possibility. Jolie subconsciously bit her lips. If this was really the case, then didn't that mean she had harmed Chinyu? In other words, if Chinyu had already become Ningqin's disciple, then whether it was the Shadow Clan's auction or today's arena, none of it was his original intention. The Radiance Temple Master's eyes flashed. She nodded and said, "Of course it is effective. Saintus, please come to the round platform and watch the match." Jolie took a deep breath, suppressing his tumbling thoughts. After thanking Ji Yun, he said a few words of thanks and flew forward. Ji Yun frowned. He loudly said, "Radiance Temple Master, I am the young master of the Western Tombs Ji family. This is my identity token. May I go to the round platform with Zhou Li to watch the battle?" The Ji family of West Hill. The expressions of those in the surroundings who were slightly knowledgeable couldn't help but change, and their gazes were filled with shock and reverence. The Western Tomb Divine Church had existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and their background was deep and powerful. Every pope had a transcendent cultivation and was no weaker than any of the 7 great sections. And because of the nature of the religion, the sect had a large number of believers in the West Hill. In terms of absolute power, it even exceeded the West Hill by a lot. The Radiance Temple Master's eyes swept around, and her cold expression relaxed a little. She nodded and said, "My sect has been in contact with the Shiman divine religion several times and even fought side by side with Protector Yongri. Little friend Ji, please come over." Ji Yun cupped his hands together. "Thank you, Hall Master." His figure moved and landed beside Zhou Li. He smiled and nodded at her. As this scene fell into the eyes of the Radiance Temple Master, her gaze towards Zhou Li deepened. She could vaguely guess that Ji Yun did not hesitate to expose his identity in front of everyone. He wanted to stay by her side, to prevent her heart from panicking. Jolie was somewhat moved, but right now she had more important things to do. "Miss Yundai, I didn't expect that after parting at the Mid-Morning City branch, you and I would actually meet again here. This is truly an unexpected surprise." Jolie revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. "Miss Yundai, did you also come here to watch the Beast King battle?" Yindai also saw Zhou Li and heard the conversation between her and the Radiance Temple Master. The first thought in her mind was that she was actually the one who had obtained the approval of Dragon City and become the Shadow Clan Saintess. As she heard this, she subconsciously said, "I followed." She immediately regained her composure. "It's like this. I never thought that when I saw you today, Ms. Zhou Li would have become the Shadow Clan Saintess. Congratulations, congratulations." The matter of her teacher secretly going to the Hidden Fog sect had to be kept a secret. She had almost let slip. Jolie nodded. "After today, I will visit Miss Yundai again." Although Yundai had abruptly stopped speaking, it was enough for her to make a judgment. The one controlling Qin, Yu, was indeed Ningqin. At this time, Jolie's mind was flooded with regret. If she knew this would happen, She would never have recommended Chinyu. But now it was too late to say these things. She had to help Chinyu escape from today's maelstrom. Otherwise, if something were to happen to him, Jolie would never be able to live the rest of her life in peace. Jian's low voice echoed in her ears. Jolie, do you recognize this person? Jolie let out a breath. She slowly nodded. I'm sorry, Jian. I didn't recognize him just now. After being gently interrupted, Jian said, I believe in you. If there is anything I can help you with, feel free to tell me. Jolie was moved. She lowered her head and thought for a moment. Then, with a bit of hesitation, she said, Jian, this person once showed me graciousness. I can't tell you about his current situation, but it is related to me. So, if possible, if there's an accident, I hope that you can protect his life. Of course, if it is impossible, you don't have to. With the status of the Western Tomb Divine Church's young master, he had enough status to help. It was just that this matter was likely to cause a series of troubles, so Jolie hesitated. Jian interrupted her once more. Okay. Jolie's heart warmed. You must consider this carefully. Jian smiled. This is the first time that you have asked me to help you, so I will naturally help you. He took a deep breath and continued to say, You already know that I am the young master of the Western Tomb Divine Church. I'm the only male in my family, and the position of church master will be inherited by me. No matter what, those people from his 7 great sects will give me some face. These words were light and joking, but they revealed a formidable self-confidence. And the young master of the Western Tomb Divine Church did indeed have this confidence. Jolie pursed her lips. Jian, thank you. Jian looked towards the arena. My greatest wish is that one day you will never say thank you to me again. His thoughts were clear to see. Jolie was silent. But she wasn't a plant or a tree. After being delayed by the Shadow Clan Saintus and the Western Tomb Divine Church's young master, everyone's eyes turned back. After all, matters that involved their own interests were the most important. And right now, this was the first confrontation between the 7 great sects in the arena. It was a critical moment to compete for the first position and obtain the right to have a bye on the first day. With the Hidden Fog sect's current situation, the chances of a counterattack were nearly 0. But this black-robed man who had suddenly attacked left everyone curious. Why did he still dare to attack? He wiped away these thoughts and sighed inwardly. He would think about Jolie's matters in the future. He lifted a hand and gently patted the dark star ice serpent. The power of his blood vitality quietly poured into its body. The dark star ice serpent's giant body suddenly shivered. Its giant eyes were tightly shut so that no one could see the fear and awe in them. Chinyu took a step back. Big fellow, make your move. Dragon City really was the home of the dragon race. The champion camp of the Beast King War would be able to obtain a gift, a baptism of dragon energy. This proved that the arena here was intimately related to the dragon race. As for Dragon City, it had been built by a powerful ancient race in the distant past. After clarifying these relationships, it wasn't difficult to make a judgment. Chinyu believed that the blood vitality he poured into the Dark Star Ice Serpent's body would surely produce some sort of effect. Hearing Chinyu's command, the Dark Star Ice Serpent's giant body rose up from the ground. The silver horn on its head began to shine with runes. The temperature between the heavens and earth crazily fell. The skies darkened and massive snowflakes fell down, covering the entire world. In the wind and snow that filled the skies, the phantom of a towering ice mountain slowly appeared. It was so massive that its tip seemed to sink into the heavens. As one looked down, one could actually feel a cold chill surging towards them, nearly freezing their souls. The Dark Star Ice Serpent fiercely bent down. The horn on its head thrust forwards, thrusting towards the arena. As it moved, the phantom of a towering ice mountain rose up from the ground. With a loud rumble, it stirred up trillions of heaven and earth spiritual strength as it smashed into the arena. At this moment, the ice mountain was like a saber, able to cut apart the heavens and shatter the earth, destroying 1 trillion lives. Countless people cried out in alarm. Although they had already guessed just how powerful the dark star ice serpent was, they were still shaken by the momentum it caused. That giant ice mountain that towered into the heavens seemed to crash into their minds through their gazes, causing their minds to fall into a brief blank. In the arena, 10 halos appeared. The outside was light, and the inside was pitch black, as if the sky was about to brighten and the curtain of night had fallen. They represented the two extremes of light and darkness, containing the mysteries of yin and yang. At this time, the phantom of the ice mountain arrived. Like a knife cutting through cheese, the first 6 halos were instantly cut apart. The 7th level was as dark as the curtain of night. Most of the halos had been cut apart, and the phantom of the ice mountain seemed to sink into a swamp. Even so, it still moved forwards. With every inch it moved forwards, there was a loud rumbling sound. Within the 7th halo of light, the darkness seemed to surge up and down like great waves. Everyone that had been shocked by the phantom of the ice mountain fell silent. As long as one wasn't blind, they could naturally judge that the dark star ice serpent could break through the 7th level. Just this point alone surpassed all the spirit beasts of the other sects besides Radiance Temple's Phoenix Lawn. If the Hidden Fog sect had an equal number of supporters, then they would have become the only 2 8-ring sects that could stand side by side with Radiance Temple. At this time, the supporters of the Limitless Swords sect, Witchcraft sect, Moonkeep Tower, Blue Origin sect, and Mount Fuyao, all of them began to feel regret. If they had supported the Hidden Fog sect before, then with the formidable strength that the Dark Star Ice Serpent had displayed, even if others knew of its strength ahead of time, they still might have had the qualifications to win. But it was clear that there was no medicine for regret in this world. Everything was already beyond redemption. Bang! The 7th halo of light shattered. The phantom of the ice mountain didn't slow down at all. It fell onto the 8th ring, but it was clear that its strength had been exhausted and signs of collapse appeared. It no longer had the strength to continue forwards. The Radiance Temple Master revealed a happy expression. With the Dark Star Ice Serpent strength, if it broke through the 8th ring, then even if the Phoenix Lawn could defeat it, it would still consume a great deal of energy. If so, then the effect of being first on the first day would be halved. Luckily, it was still a step behind, but the Dark Star Ice Serpent strength had surpassed everyone's expectations. It seemed that Radiance Temple's preparations against it weren't enough. Luckily, they still had time to prepare. After the first day of battle in the arena, there would be a challenge match for the loser. In addition to the time needed to recover, there would be at least 5 to 7 days. That was more than enough. At that time, the Phoenix Lawn would be able to wait for it to exhaust itself. With thorough preparations, defeating the Dark Star Ice Serpent would be easy. Zhou Li's heart relaxed. She was truly worried that Qin Yu would act like he did at the Shadow Clan auction and show off too much. That would only increase the risk of him being exposed. To him, losing like this was the best result. A dark light flashed in the depths of Ji Yun's eyes. He could see that Zhou Li was paying special attention to that black-robed person. But soon, his expression returned to tranquility. No matter who this black-robed person was, the one who would be able to capture Zhou Li's heart in the end would be him. The 7th level would end here. The various factions in the arena all made their own judgments. In their hearts, they felt regret for the Hidden Fog sect, a bit of depression, and a bit of joy after unwillingness. To be more precise, it was the latter emotion. Compared to them, the Hidden Fog sect that had lost the qualifications to compete for first place because of the problem of having too few supporters was undoubtedly even more difficult to accept. The mentality of there is someone worse off than me existed on any level. This was the darkest side of human nature. Chapter 738. As the Ice Mountain shadow collapsed, the Hidden Fog sect master's eyes darkened, revealing a look of disappointment. Even with Mr. Qin's strength, he still wasn't able to accomplish this. If he had known earlier, he would have persisted. He was just that one step away. The hidden fog sect's Elder C and the others looked at Qin Yu's back. The awe and respect in their eyes quietly faded by a great deal. An existence at the Grand Expert realm was far less formidable than they had imagined. It wasn't as if they could accomplish anything. Yin Dai's mouth fell open. She couldn't believe what she was seeing, and all sorts of chaotic emotions wove together in her heart. After personally witnessing over 400 mature shadow trees, Yin Dai no longer had the slightest doubt towards her teacher's strength. Thus, she had never imagined that something like failure would occur. If her teacher took action, then he would definitely succeed. This was a belief that she had accumulated in her heart after experiencing it again and again. But now, a crack had appeared in this belief. Qin Yu could feel the eyes behind him, as well as the hidden ridicule from all around him. Beneath his black robes, his expression was calm. He was waiting. He was waiting for the blood energy he poured into the Dark Star Ice Serpent to verify his speculations. Roar! The Dark Star Ice Serpent suddenly roared, its voice filled with excitement and agitation. Qin Yu's eyes brightened. It had begun. On the scales covering its body, a faint blood-red color appeared. Then, as if pushed by an invisible strength, it gathered on the horn on its head. Its color became bright, but it wasn't that kind of naked, ruthless, and cruel scarlet. It was more like a transparent jade color. It was pure, beautiful, and noble. At this moment, on the other 6 sects' round platforms, as well as Radiance Temple's Phoenix Lawn, all the spirit beasts roared and cried out. They looked at the Dark Star Ice Serpent, their eyes filled with shock and awe. It crashed into the 8th level of the Ice Mountain Shadow. A trace of blood red appeared, the same color as the Dark Star Ice Serpent's horn. It rapidly spread outwards, forming the phantom of a long saber. It trembled and directly shattered the Ice Mountain Shadow. Or it could be said that it had gathered and absorbed all of the Ice Mountain Shadow's strength. Whoosh! The saber phantom slashed out. The 8th level was instantly passed. Then the 9th level, the 10th level. Bang! The saber phantom didn't slow down. It fell into the arena, tearing open a long mark on the floor tiles that were covered with the marks of time. The deafening sound reverberated throughout the colossal beast fighting arena, causing everyone's faces to turn pale and their eyes to stare blankly. Break through the 10th level, break through the 10th level, break through the 10th level. At this moment, only one thought remained in everyone's mind. Ever since the rise of the 7 major sects, dividing and occupying the vast and affluent Eastern Plains, the Beast King battle had been held countless times. In the long years of history, there had also been extremely stunning Beast Kings with unparalleled strength, directly crushing all opponents. However, the highest achievement recorded in history was only 9 rings, and that was after receiving the support of the supporters. His actual strength was only 8 rings. But today they had witnessed the birth of a 10-ring result with their own eyes. Moreover, there was no bonus, and it was purely based on his own strength. How terrifying was this? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have dared to believe it. Impossible. The witchcraft sect master suppressed his roar. His face flushed red and twisted with excitement. I do not believe that even though the Dark Star Ice Serpent is strong, it is impossible for it to break through the 10 halos. In the deathly silence, this roar caused everyone to regain their composure. In particular, those people from Radiance Temple who were in a daze felt their hearts skip a beat. Had some accident occurred? That's right. Even if that blood saber phantom was the legendary supreme ice saber hidden between the heavens and earth, it still wouldn't have this kind of strength. The Moonbow and Wind Sword both appeared, and they only managed to break through the 7th level. The ice saber is in existence on the same level as them. So how could the disparity be so great? There must be a problem with the hidden fog sect's results. The crowd was roused with excitement. Whoosh! The round stone howled as it flew towards him. Qin Yu lifted his hand and grasped it. With a light cracking sound, all of the noise and chaos suddenly dissipated. On the surface of the stone, there were 10 halos lined up. They flowed with brilliant light, and the phantom of a seven-colored dragon could be faintly seen. Good, good, good. The hidden fog sect master reared back his head and laughed, his voice billowing out in all directions. He stepped forwards and bowed. Thank you, mister, for helping my hidden fog sect seize the first position. Once the 10 rings appeared, who could compete with him? Like this, today's competition came to an end. Elder C and the other high-level figures of the hidden fog sect all revealed looks of embarrassment and panic. They followed suit and bowed. We thank Mr. A Grand Master wasn't terrifying? How did I come to such a conclusion? Did my brain have a screw loose? Yindai was so excited that her face flushed red. She didn't speak, only straightening her back as pride and joy flowed out. She knew that her teacher would definitely be able to do it. 10 rings. This was the 10th ring. In the long history of the arena, it had never appeared before. The cracks in her faith vanished without a trace, becoming even more steadfast. The witchcraft sect master fiercely stood up and roared. My sect is not satisfied with this result. I request that the arena recertify it. He absolutely couldn't stare on helplessly as the hidden fog sect became the final winner. To the witchcraft sect, that would be the worst possible news. The Radiance Temple Master's beautiful and noble face was dignified at this time. She frowned and stood up. Radiance Temple requests that the hidden fog sect's results be recertified. The arena was an extremely important part of Dragon City, and it possessed all sorts of inconceivable abilities. But in the end, it was only an inanimate object, an existence similar to a precise tool. Over the endless passage of time, there had been mistakes. This was something that could be verified in history. Thus, the arena gave the 7 great sects the right to appeal. As long as more than 4 sects expressed doubt, they could request a recertification. Of course, this right didn't come without a price. They would need to pay an extremely high fee to the Shadow Clan afterwards in order to compensate for the extra strength that the arena lost. The Blue Origin sect requests recertification. Moonkeep Tower requests recertification. Mount Fu Yao requests recertification. The Limitless Sword sect requests recertification. The 6 great sects all took action. This was because they couldn't believe the result of the 10th ring, but they also hoped to use this opportunity to determine the true strength of the Dark Star Eye Serpent. If it really had the strength to break through 10 halos in a single go, then there would be no point in looking forward to this Beast King War. The Hidden Fog sect master sucked in a deep breath. Mister? Chinyu lightly said, It's fine. This time, no one doubted his words. The people of the Hidden Fog sect all relaxed. The ground gently trembled. The massive cracks on the floor rapidly healed. Then, a gloomy light appeared. Within it floated a vertical eye that slowly opened. The moment the eye opened, everyone in the arena felt a chill in their hearts. It was like their entire being had been seen through, and there was no longer any secrets left. The vertical eye looked towards the Dark Star Eye Serpent. But only Chinyu knew that the majority of this eye's time was spent on him. From this Dark Star Eye Serpent's gaze, he could feel awe, fear, as well as a bit of resentment and unwillingness. Before Chinyu could discover anything more, the vertical eye slowly closed. Then, an old and monotonous voice echoed through the arena. The results are correct. Schwa. The gloomy light vanished from sight. The witchcraft sect master closed his eyes and clenched his fists beneath his sleeves. His heart was filled with ruthlessness, as if he wanted nothing more than to destroy everything. The Hidden Fog sect, it was actually the Hidden Fog sect. If they became the final victor, then what the witchcraft sect would do could be imagined. No, they absolutely could not allow it. Now that the final confirmation had been completed, there was no doubt that they had obtained the 10th ring. The right to Abai was theirs. But even if they obtained the right to Abai, that didn't mean they could become the final champion. At the very least, the witchcraft sect wouldn't stare on helplessly as the Hidden Fog sect took this glory. What couldn't be changed in the arena? There was still a chance outside. The witchcraft sect master opened his eyes, his expression calm once more. He glanced at Chinyu and then sat back down. The witchcraft sect master naturally knew where the true source of the hidden fog sect's counterattack was. Since such a person had become the witchcraft sect's enemy, they had to be thoroughly destroyed. The Radiance Temple Master was silent for several breaths of time. She lightly said, "The hidden fog sect's Darkstar Ice Serpent is indeed formidable. Radiance Temple admits defeat." Her tone was calm and indifferent. The ordinary-looking Moonkeep Tower Master glanced over and revealed a cold smile. This woman still liked to put on an act. How disgusting. However, it was indeed unexpected that the Hidden Fog sect had become the greatest dark horse in this Beast King war. Perhaps she could do something about it. The Blue Origin Sect Master laughed. "Sect Master Hu Fu, my mood was fluctuating just now. If we offended you in any way, I ask that you forgive us. To break through the 10th ring of light and cut down daybreak and nighttime. The Darkstar Ice Serpent strength is enough to be recorded in the annals of history and be admired by all cultivators of the future. Of the 7 great sects of the East, the Blue Origin sect was known for having a wide circle of friends. Besides being particularly close to Radiance Temple, they also had connections with the other 5 sections. Even the coldest and most ruthless witchcraft sect rarely came into conflict with the Blue Origin sect. There was naturally a reason for this. Blabbermouth, Bootlicker, Mountain Master Fu Yao nearly went insane with anger. The Blue Origin sect had snatched him away once more. It was like he was always following behind them and picking up their leftovers. Once he returned, he was going to recruit several disciples with sharp tongues. Mountain Master Fu Yao could not lose in a battle of words. The Hidden Fog sect has obtained the position of first place. I am wholeheartedly convinced. Cursing was cursing, but he couldn't miss a single word. Mountain Master Fu Yao was clear on what was important and what was not. Rumble, rumble. The Hidden Fog sect's round platform suddenly rose up a level higher than the other 6 sections. This meant that they had obtained the right to sit on the first day and didn't need to participate in today's slaughter. Suppressed cries of joy sounded out from behind. The 100 or so supporters of the backdoor guests nearly shed tears. Who would have thought that today, the most tragic people were the ones with the most outstanding vision? They had bet on the right treasure. After determining that the position of first place was in his hands, Qin Yu whispered several words to Hu Fu and then turned to leave. As he passed by Yun Dai, he gave her a meaningful glance. Yun Dai respectfully bowed and followed behind him. The Hidden Fog sect master ordered, "Follow him. You must ensure Mr. safety." He was well aware of the sinister and ruthless methods that were used in private. He was also certain that Qin Yu was the key to the Hidden Fog sect's final victory. "Yes, sect master." Several Hidden Fog sect masters bowed. The one that followed Qin Yu the entire time was the cold and aloof middle-aged man. He was one of them. Several people turned around and quickly chased after him. Even further away, the witchcraft sect master frowned as he saw this. Then he sneered inwardly. If the witchcraft sect wanted to kill someone, they would never be able to defend themselves with numbers. Elder C cupped his hands together and said, "Sect master, Mr. is..." After what happened just now, the usually stubborn and unyielding elders all felt a bit more respect. The Hidden Fog sect master calmly said, "There are some matters that Mr. needs to attend to." He turned and sat down. He looked towards the arena. From his high position, he could see the other 6 sects at a glance. Mr. Ningqin could leave, but they had to stay behind to observe the battle between the spirit beasts of the 6 sects and obtain first-hand information. This was the first right given to them by trading positions. The journey was smooth. After returning to the Hidden Fog sect station, Qin Yu waved his hand and ordered several Hidden Fog sect cultivators to stand guard outside the laboratory. He thought for a moment and said, "Yin Dai, if Jolie comes looking for you, do not tell her that I am Ningqin." "Ah." Yin Dai was surprised. Qin Yu said, "I won't hide it from you. Before I entered Sky Declaring Pavilion, I already knew Jolie, but she doesn't know that I am Ningqin." After thinking for a moment, he continued to say, "If Jolie asks about my identity, tell her that I am Ningqin's secret disciple." Understood? Yindai digested this information. She finally obtained an explanation for her previous confusion. So it was because of this that her teacher treated Zhou Li differently. But why did her teacher want to hide his identity? With a heart full of questions, she respectfully nodded and suppressed the curiosity in her heart. What she should know, her teacher would naturally tell her. What she shouldn't know, she definitely couldn't ask. Qin leaned back on the sofa. He waved his hand and said, "Go. I will be cultivating in seclusion for the next several days. Before the arena finals begin, do not disturb me unless there is something important." Yindai bowed. "Yes, teacher." Watching her leave the laboratory, he pulled down his black robes. After thinking for a moment, he bitterly smiled. He suddenly felt that there was some inexplicable fate between him and Zhou Li. Even in the distant Dragon City, they were able to meet twice. Whatever, it seemed that Zhou Li wouldn't casually mention his matters to others. For now, he wouldn't bother with her. Chapter 739. The first day of battles in the arena came to an end. The Limitless Sword Sect, Radiance Temple, and Moonkeep Tower had advanced to the finals. The Witchcraft Sect, Blue Origin Sect, and Mount Fuyao had been defeated. 2 days later, they would compete for the best loser, and the winner would have the qualifications to challenge one of the 4 sects in the finals. The lively Dragon City seemed to have consumed too much of everyone's enthusiasm. As night fell, the city fell into a tranquil silence. Of course, in some corners, one could still hear cultivators rushing over from tens of millions of miles away, cursing in a low voice. For instance, before the arena opened, the Witchcraft Sect that had been favored by many had been defeated in the struggle for first place. But in the Spirit Beast battles, they had actually been eliminated by Moonkeep Tower. This was truly disappointing. In the dim light of the night, a group of people emerged from the Shadow Clan station. Zhou Li sat in an exquisite carriage, her eyebrows gently furrowed. A moment later, the hidden Fog Sect station appeared in sight. Without needing any further instructions, a Shadow Clan cultivator had already rushed over to report. Teacher's plans are truly flawless, Yindai thought to herself. She smiled and stood up to welcome them. "Your Highness Saintess has arrived. Forgive me for not going out to greet you." Across from her, Zhou Li smiled. "It was rude of me to visit so late at night. I hope Miss Yindai doesn't mind." The two of them stood facing each other, laughing and chatting, as beautiful as twin flowers. As they sat down on a sofa on either side, Yindai recalled her teacher's instructions during the day. "Your Highness Saintess, may I ask why you have come today?" Zhou Li hesitated for a moment. "Miss Yindai and I could be considered old acquaintances, so I won't beat around the bush. May I ask who helped the hidden Fog Sect win in the arena today?" She stared at Yindai. "Ah, Your Highness Saintess is talking about a junior apprentice brother. He is teacher's most recent disciple," Yindai calmly said, but inwardly she felt a bit uncomfortable. "Teacher, you were the one who told me to say this. It wasn't that this disciple was being disrespectful." Zhou Li's heart skipped a beat. It was just as she thought. Although she was surprised that she had obtained the information she wanted so easily, she wasn't in the mood to think about it. After a long time, Zhou Li took a deep breath and said, "Miss Yindai, is Mr. Ningqin here? I would like to pay my respects." Yindai smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry. Teacher is currently in the middle of an experiment. He has already ordered that no one is to disturb him." Thinking about the unusual relationship between Zhou Li and her teacher, she paused for a moment and said, "Ms. Zhou Li, if it's convenient, you can tell me. When teacher comes out, I will naturally pass on the message." Zhou Li lightly said, "Miss Yindai, please pass on a message to Mr. Ningqin. Qin Yu is an old friend of mine, and I once received his graciousness. I do not wish for him to take the risk of meddling in a situation where he is powerless to resist. Moreover, please express my respect to Mr. Ningqin." At the Shadow Clan's auction, Mr. Ning played with the 7 great sects in the palm of his hand. The entire Shadow Clan admires him to no end. She stood up. "I won't disturb Miss Yindai's rest." I will bid my farewells first." He turned around and left. Looking at her back, Yindai's complexion was a bit strange. Chinyu, wasn't that the elder senior apprentice brother who first followed at teacher's side? Could that be the other identity of the teacher that Jolie knew? Or perhaps, Chinyu is her teacher's real name. With teacher's strength of the Grand Scholar realm, why would he change his appearance and even hide his real name to join Sky, declaring Pavilion? There had to be some hidden story behind this. Yindai thought about it for a long time, but couldn't figure it out. She could only suppress her thoughts. To her, her teacher and Sky declaring Pavilion were close and distant. She didn't need to think about it to know that she would definitely stand on her teacher's side. She let out a light breath and pondered over Zhou Li's words. Then, she realized that there seemed to be a great misunderstanding between teacher and Zhou Li. He even threatened her right in front of her face. From Zhou Li's point of view, she was worried that Ning Qin would harm his disciple Qinyu. But the truth was that they were the same person to begin with. Yindai bitterly smiled. She had a bit of a complaint towards teacher. If there was something that could be explained clearly, then why did things have to be so complicated? Cough cough, this sort of love and hate scene only existed in the script. Of course, this was only a momentary complaint. Since teacher did this, he must have his reasons. But she still had to tell teacher about this. Otherwise, Zhou Li would suddenly reveal the matter of the Shadow Clan's auction. That would be troublesome. Radiance Temple Station. As a sect where over 90% of the disciples were women, at this time, a faint fragrance wafted through the hall. Enchanting beauties of all sorts of styles were sitting or standing around, exuding a myriad of styles. But at this time, most of these beauties were frowning and occasionally clenching their teeth. The atmosphere was heavy and gloomy. The Radiance Temple Master sat in the center. Her expression was calm, and her hands were smooth like flowing water. Steam floated in front of her, and the fragrance of tea filled the air. Seeing that the Temple Master was still in the mood to drink tea, an elder couldn't help but ask, "Temple Master, are we just going to stare on helplessly as the Hidden Fog sect takes away the position of chief?" In order to subdue the Phoenix Lawn, Radiance Temple had paid a tremendous price. They thought that everything would be foolproof, but who knew that a tiger would appear midway? That's right, Temple Master. With the strength that the Dark Star Ice Serpent has displayed, if we don't do anything, then the Hidden Fog sect will surely be the victor after today. The result of the Beast King War is of great importance. We cannot ignore it in the least. If Temple Master has the heart to fight for it, there might be a chance. There was a hidden meaning in these words. The Radiance Temple Master took a sip of tea. She lightly said, "I understand what the elders mean, but regarding the Hidden Fog sect becoming the chief, the ones who should be the most nervous aren't us." A sharp light flashed in the depths of her eyes. The elder who spoke first had a thoughtful look. "Temple Master, what do you mean?" "Wait." The Radiance Temple Master laid down her teacup. She looked out the window and into the gradually darkening night. Her slender eyes drooped. Tonight, there might be a wind rising. He ordered the Deathsworn to stand guard outside Mr. Ning Qin's laboratory. He also laid down several layers of defensive and warning array formations. After carefully inspecting the area and making sure there weren't any omissions, the Hidden Fog Sect Master's complexion relaxed. "Pass down the order. No one is to be careless. We must do everything we can to protect Mr. Ning Qin's safety. If there is an accident, have them bring their heads back." "Yes, Sect Master." Several elders felt their hearts chill. As they sensed his decisiveness, they didn't dare to delay. They turned and hurried away. They had to patrol the area once more to ensure that nothing went wrong. The Hidden Fog Sect Master lowered his head, deep in thought. Suddenly, he frowned and revealed a pained expression. His face paled. After several breaths of time, he took a deep breath and stood up. "I need a rest for a while. If there isn't something important, do not disturb me." He stood up and took several steps away, vanishing from sight. Witchcraft Sect Station, underground chamber. An intricate illumination array formation was laid down. It released a bright but not blinding light, illuminating the entire underground chamber as if it were daytime. A gray stone statue quietly stood there. From its build, It was that of a young and slender man. It was just that there were no facial features on his face. He gave off a strange and gloomy feeling. Little Ancestor stood in front of the stone statue, his face expressionless. He gripped the saber in one hand and pulled with the other. His eyebrows jumped up and blood flowed out. Little Ancestor stretched out his 5 fingers, allowing the wound to open up and the blood to flow faster. Then, he pressed his palm down on the top of the stone statue's head. Gulp, gulp. In the quiet underground chamber, there was the clear sound of swallowing. It was like a hungry traveler had emerged from the desert and was drinking from a bag of water in great gulps. A faint blood-red color began to spread down from the top of the stone statue's head. As the blood-red color spread out, a strange life force began to emit from the stone statue. On its featureless face, a thin layer of mucus appeared. At this time, it constantly wriggled like flesh and blood, as if it wanted to grow a mouth, nose, and eyes. The sound of swallowing became faster and faster. Little Ancestor's body began to shiver, and his face had long since lost all color. But his expression remained calm, as if he couldn't feel the terrifying swallowing strength that came from the stone statue. It left one's heart racing and chilling. Ever since he entered the witchcraft sect and was chosen as a disciple by the sect master, Little Ancestor was well aware that his blood was different from that of ordinary people. As for why he was able to maintain his composure, the reason was simple. This wasn't the first time he had experienced something like this. A trace of self-deprecation appeared in his heart. The reason he dared to run amok and tyrannical in the past wasn't it because of his precious blood? Otherwise, how could the entire witchcraft sect tolerate him until now? After a moment, the swallowing sound from the stone statue finally vanished. Little Ancestor slowly lifted his hand. The gaping wound was pale white. His field of vision darkened, but he forced himself not to show it. He turned around and bowed. The sect master didn't like to be weak. He was already well aware of this. The witchcraft sect master nodded. Very good. Little Ancestor, go to the side and rest. His eyes fell on the blood-red stone statue, and he diabolically grinned. During these years, because of the way the witchcraft sect conducted themselves, the outside world believed that the most terrifying aspect of the witchcraft sect was goo insects. But they forgot that witchcraft came before goo. A long time ago, long before the witchcraft sect entered the Eastern Plains, what truly left people fearful about the witchcraft sect was the witchcraft that was inherited from ancient times. It could kill people without leaving a trace, and its might was terrifying. But because of some accident, the witchcraft sect lost a medium to continue using witchcraft. Luckily, thanks to the blessings of their ancestors, after some hard work, they were finally able to obtain a medium to use witchcraft once more. Dozens of years later, Little Ancestor's bloodline would flourish, and the witchcraft sect would inevitably be restored to its true strength from long ago. At that time, whether it was the powerful Limitless Sword sect, the Hidden Radiance Temple, or the Moonkey Pagoda, they would all be thoroughly crushed. Today, they would experience the terrifying ability of witchcraft in advance. Of course, this was also a serious warning to the other sects not to attempt to suppress the witchcraft sect. Otherwise, what happened tonight would become a situation they would have to face in the future. With a deep breath, the witchcraft sect master walked in front of the blood-red statue. His expression turned solemn, and he slowly knelt down. He began to chant strange and deep syllables from his mouth. One couldn't understand the meaning, but they could clearly feel the dreadful chill contained within each syllable. Chapter 740. Waves of air surged through the laboratory. Chinyu sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. His black robes tumbled around him, revealing his skin. His meridians bulged out like snakes. At the same time, a faintly discernible, translucent dragon phantom constantly flowed in and out of his orifices. The dragon blood and dragon soul contained a formidable strength that was currently repairing his wounds. Cracks would occasionally appear in the space around him. This was the result of the space annihilation strength hidden within Qin Yu's body being constantly expelled. Starlight dotted the space cracks. One could almost hear the trembling of the chains of stars in his ears. At this time, Qin Yu's entire mind and consciousness were drawn into his body, controlling the wild strength released by the dragon blood and dragon soul with all his strength. This was the same as cutting off all perception from the outside world. Of course, as a mature cultivator who had experienced many trials and tribulations, Qin Yu had made corresponding arrangements before he used the dragon blood and dragon soul. He wouldn't allow himself to be in a completely defenseless state. A knuckle-sized bell that was old and damaged lay quietly on the ground. If one looked closely, they would discover that on both sides of the bell, there was a crescent moon and a sun. The purple moon was like a hook, and the blue sun was perfectly round. So boring, really so boring. Mimi's crazed voice echoed in the minds of the three people. Anyone who was woken up from a good sleep would be in such a state, much less someone like her who placed eating and sleeping as the highest goals in her life. And most importantly, looking at Qin Yu's current state, it was clear he wouldn't be able to end anytime soon. This was extremely difficult to endure. That hateful Qin Yu. Once he woke up, she would ruthlessly extort him. He actually made Miss Mimi endure her drowsiness to protect him. This was an unforgivable crime. Big Sister Purple Moon, can you talk to me? I don't want to. Do you need to be so heartless? I do. Mimi's remaining words were swallowed back down. After being together for so long in her soul space, Purple Moon knew that beneath the facade of a certain glutton and sleeper, there was also a hidden talkative nature. Once she was given a chance to activate it, there would be no peace afterwards. Big Sister Blue Sun, shut up. The cold voice was like the cold wind that blew in the dead of winter, piercing straight into the marrow and nearly freezing the soul. Mei Mei's eyes widened, and she looked so wrong that she wanted to cry. Purple Moon's heartlessness made her sad, but this one was even colder and made her feel despair. Why was his life so bad? He actually met these two top-notch neighbors. But in the next moment, Mei Mei's painful and sad emotions came to an abrupt halt. Her eyes widened as she muttered, "It can't be." Such a good thing actually happened a second time. On the surface of a shabby bell, the shadows of the purple moon and the azure sun flashed. In the shadows of a corner of the laboratory, wisps of black energy that couldn't be seen with the naked eye gushed out. They were like fish that had their own intelligence. They rapidly gathered together, gradually turning into a mass of black energy that gently floated over and covered Qin Yu's figure. Chirping sounds, like the whispering of sparrows, rang out from the little bell. "Sisters, isn't it a little inappropriate for us to do this?" Purple Moon smiled. "If you don't want to, you can withdraw." Blue Sun simply ignored him. Mei Mei shook her head repeatedly and squinted her eyes happily. Sure enough, her sisters thought the same as her. They were all people who had been ravaged by hunger. Although they had eaten a sumptuous meal not too long ago, that was far from enough. Today, since delicious food was delivered to their doorstep, they certainly couldn't miss it. Of course, the three of them had a tacit understanding. While they had to eat delicious food, they couldn't allow Qin Yu to be disturbed. If there was any wind or rain in the outside world, feel free to come at us three sisters. There was no need to be polite. Witchcraft Sex Chamber. As the chanting continued, the blood-red color on the surface of the stone statue began to rapidly grow. Faint traces of flesh and blood appeared, weaving together and soon forming the body of an adult man. It was slender and powerful. Although it didn't seem too strong, every piece of streamlined flesh and blood contained a formidable, explosive strength. The witchcraft sect master's chanting became increasingly devout. The structure of the body had basically been completed. Only the mucous membrane on his face continued to wriggle. From time to time, tiny granules would grow, but they would soon wither and dissipate. The witchcraft sect master frowned, a dignified expression on his face. The process of locking onto this person's aura was far more difficult than he expected. Either this person had a great background that could disturb his aura, or he had some extremely precious treasure on him that could automatically conceal his karma. If this were any other time, the witchcraft sect master might have given up. But he absolutely couldn't watch on helplessly as the hidden fog sect won. Humph! Since there were no counterattack fluctuations, the former was more likely. But, as long as he was secretive enough, who cared if this person had a great background? If he couldn't find the murderer, then he would have died in vain. The witchcraft sect master had absolute confidence in the witchcraft inherited from ancient times. Unless he personally admitted it, no one would be able to find out anything. It was just that his strength wasn't enough. The witchcraft sect master glanced at the pale-faced little ancestor. He thought for a moment and then gave up on the idea of letting little ancestor bleed. This was the future source of the witchcraft sect's witchcraft. If he couldn't kill the goose that laid the golden eggs, then he would have to pay the price. With a deep breath, the witchcraft sect master lifted a hand and pointed between his eyebrows. There were loud bangs from his body, as if something had exploded. His body rose by 30%, and a powerful aura surged around him. In the next moment, he drew back his finger. There was a phantom connected to his fingertip, one that looked somewhat similar to the witchcraft sect master. Shwa! His finger was like lightning. It fell between the statue's eyebrows, and the phantom instantly sank into it. A strange and clear swallowing sound rang out once more. The mucus on the statue's face began to wildly grow. Massive amounts of granulation sprouted and wove together. A blurry man's face was rapidly taking shape. The witchcraft sect master's swollen body was like a punctured ball. He rapidly restored himself to his original state. Besides his pale complexion, there was nothing else different about him. With his cultivation, paying a small price was something he could withstand. He would only need several days to restore himself. The witchcraft sect master's lips curled up. His eyes locked onto the statue's face. Once it finished growing, that meant its aura had been completely locked onto. Then, the cultivator that helped the hidden fog sect would enjoy the night of howling that he had carefully prepared. Under the gaze of everyone present, he wanted this person to slowly rot and die in excruciating pain. After tonight, the witchcraft sect would become an existence that no one dared to provoke. Soon, the face was about to take shape. But at this time, the witchcraft sect master's excited expression stiffened. In the next moment, his eyes turned cold and gloomy. He saw that on the statue across from him, the face that was about to take shape suddenly freeze. Then, as if winter snow had fallen overnight, the flesh and blood began to wither and rot like grass and trees. Shrouded in black fog, the old bell that had been quietly placed on the ground suddenly rose up and floated above Qin Yu's head. It was like a little mouse hiding in the dark, quietly nibbling away at the surrounding black gas bit by bit. Mimi, don't be too heavy-handed. Pay attention to your limits. Purple Moon's reprimanding voice sounded out, revealing a trace of dissatisfaction. Blue Sun didn't speak, but the cold aura she emitted caused Mimi to subconsciously shrink back and reveal a flattering expression. Yes, big sisters, I will remember this. I wasn't able to control myself just now. Next time I will open my mouth a little smaller. Just a little smaller. Mimi narrowed her eyes in satisfaction, her face full of happiness. Qin Yu was truly worthy of being the best human-shaped food bait. He hadn't disappointed her at all. The only regret she had was that every time food was brought in, it had to be eaten by 3 people. It had to be known that she was still a child. Loving and caring for the young was a fine traditional virtue. So why didn't these 2 big sisters sprout and take root? Just thinking about it made her heart feel stifled. To a foodie, when the same food was placed in front of them and they ate it together, they couldn't eat it as quickly as others. This was truly a sad matter. Fortunately, the more times he did it, the more he could heal his wounded heart. Mimi waited with anticipation. She hoped that this time the food would come in large enough and last long enough. Humph! Just by smelling it, she knew that the one controlling the witchcraft was a man. And wasn't the greatest compliment a man should be the number of times he used it for a long time? Don't look at me because I'm young. I know everything I need to know. The witchcraft sect master's complexion paled. The gloominess in his eyes seemed to condense into essence. That damn thing, he was just a little bit off, and he had actually failed. If he knew this would happen, he would have used a little more strength just now. It would have been better than having to start all over again. To sacrifice strength twice in a short period of time, even for the witchcraft sect master, this would create some pressure. Originally, he would only need several days to recover. But now, the time had been extended by at least half. He let out a deep breath. The depression in his chest dissipated a little. The witchcraft sect master lifted a hand and pointed between his eyebrows once more. There was an explosive sound from within his body once more. His body expanded, and when he pulled back his fingertip was still attached to a figure. This figure was even more corporeal, and his appearance was even more similar to the witchcraft sect master's. With a tap of his finger, he submerged into the statue once more. His body shrank and restored. The witchcraft sect master's complexion paled even further. In addition, his face was filled with exhaustion, and his flesh and blood seemed to wither a little. But at this time, he didn't have the mind to pay attention to this. His eyes were glued to the rapidly growing flesh and blood on the statue's face. The man's face appeared once more. This time, he could definitely complete it. The witchcraft sect master suddenly felt that the night of howling he had prepared wasn't perfect enough. Wait a moment, he had to add something new. For instance, eating himself? Or, after his body rotted away, his consciousness became increasingly clear. Humph humph. Even if no one knew, as the witchcraft sect master, he wouldn't allow himself to suffer a loss. He absolutely had to make this person pay an even more disastrous price than he did. Thinking of this, an excited smile appeared on the witchcraft sect master's pale face. He was already impatient to act. Chapter 741. The flesh and blood withered, turning into ash that fell to the ground. There was only a faint layer of blood left on the statue's face, as if it would fade away in the next moment. This meant that tonight's attack had failed. The medium used to display witchcraft had a limit. It wasn't enough to support him any longer. But witchcraft was mysterious and terrifying. It could kill people without leaving a trace. And there were also great hidden dangers. For instance, if the witchcraft wasn't able to injure someone, there would be a tremendous backlash. Although there were methods to counteract the power of the backlash, the losses were far too heavy for the witchcraft sect master. So, since he had already made his move tonight, he couldn't give up halfway. The witchcraft sect master took a deep breath and suppressed the tumbling violence and blood in his chest. He turned to look at Little Ancestor and said, "Continue to sacrifice blood." Little Ancestor's body trembled and fear filled his eyes. But he didn't dare to refuse. He stood up with difficulty. The witchcraft sect master coldly snorted. He flicked his sleeves, and boundless strength gushed out from the void, sweeping up Little Ancestor. The barely healed wound on his palm was torn open once more. The witchcraft sect master pressed the wound against the statue. A horrifying swallowing sound rose up, and Little Ancestor shivered. His face twisted in pain, and he lowered his head, hiding the hatred in his eyes. In the back, the witchcraft sect master's face darkened. After today, even if he made up for it later, Little Ancestor's source energy would be damaged, and his lifespan would likely be affected. This would cause his next series of plans to be greatly affected, and he would have to adjust them. How hateful! Witchcraft had always been successful in every endeavor. He had used it several times before and had easily killed his target. He never thought that he would encounter setbacks again and again today. The witchcraft sect master felt some regret, but what he felt was cruelty and ruthlessness. He swore that once the witchcraft was completed, this person would suffer all the tortures in the world. His soul would wail in anguish, wither, and shatter. Gulp, gulp, the horrifying swallowing sound of the statue echoed through the chamber. Compared to the first time, it was much calmer, and there was a slight gap between each swallow. It was clear that the speed at which the blood flowed out wasn't fast enough. The witchcraft sect master lifted a hand and thrust it out. Little Ancestor stuffily coughed. His weak heart suddenly began to beat, and his face flushed red. The swallowing sound of the statue suddenly became fierce. The blood-red color that had appeared on its surface stabilized once more. Towards all of this, Little Ancestor silently endured without any room to resist. However, deep in his eyes, the hatred grew thicker and thicker. When the stone statue stopped devouring the blood, Little Ancestor collapsed to the ground, his body twitching. His entire body was emaciated, and tiny wrinkles appeared on his face, as if he had aged several decades. The witchcraft sect master swept him to the side and stood in front of the stone statue. His eyes were gloomy and deep, like a great lake in the dark night that could swallow and drown everything. He would not continue to fail on the same matter. No matter who you are, no matter what methods you have, in a moment, I will make you fall into a life and death dilemma. The witchcraft sect master lifted a hand and placed it between the statue's eyebrows. This time, the witchcraft sect master directly connected himself to the statue as the source of strength. In this way, it was naturally foolproof. The stone statue gently trembled and let out a low cry that seemed to be cheering. A powerful, plundering power erupted from it like a landslide. The strength within the witchcraft sect master's body was like a broken dam, wildly gushing outwards. But towards this, he remained calm. Once the witchcraft drew out enough strength, it would naturally slow down and stop. However, the witchcraft drew out more strength than the witchcraft sect master expected. After several breaths of time, the wild, plundering power continued without any sign of slowing down. As the witchcraft sect master furrowed his eyebrows and bewilderment rose in his heart, the swallowing strength from the stone statue suddenly weakened. He relaxed and was immediately overjoyed. It seemed that he had provided too little strength before. The witchcraft sect master looked over. He could see that flesh and blood were wildly growing on the stone statue's face, soon forming the face of a man. But when the flesh and blood began to grow, indicating that the witchcraft was about to be completed, a mask suddenly appeared, covering the face of the stone statue. The mask was pure black, like the darkest night. On the surface, the facial features were clear, but it gave people a feeling that they were not real. At this time, the eyes of the mask were closed, completely isolating it from any spying methods. The witchcraft sect master was stunned for a moment. Then he cursed out loud, spitting out all sorts of obscenities. It was impossible to see the calm demeanor of a sect master. "You bastard, since you have a treasure that can shield your aura, why didn't you activate it before? Just when I saw the dawn of victory, you smacked me in the face." This had nothing to do with cultivation or shrewdness. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to endure this. If Qin were to stand in front of the witchcraft sect master right now, he would absolutely be skinned alive and torn to pieces. Unfortunately, the witchcraft sect master didn't have such a chance. So, no matter how much he couldn't endure it, he could only grit his teeth and accept it. Looking at the closed eyes of the black mask, the witchcraft sect master's complexion turned fierce. "So what if you have a treasure to protect you? I want to see just how long it can protect you." The fierceness of witchcraft wasn't something that a mere treasure could defend against. If the witchcraft sect master thought this could stop him, then he was simply too naive. The witchcraft sect master galvanized the strength in his body and smashed it into the stone statue. He wanted to stir up waves and shatter it in a single go. Within Qin Yu's laboratory, the black fog violently tumbled and shook. From time to time, figures would appear. There were demons in heavy armor, fierce and terrifying evil ghosts, and skeletons that flew around in all directions. They howled in the fog as they crazily attacked. Ding, ding, A crisp ringing sound constantly rang out. The shabby bell floating above Qin Yu's head trembled as it was struck by a wild strength. Suddenly, cold purple moonlight sprinkled down. A crescent purple moon quietly appeared, hanging to the left of the bell. Then, the phantom of a blue sun descended. Although this was clearly the light of a great sun, it didn't emit any heat, only an endless chill. The sun and moon reflected each other. The terrifying impact from the outside world was immediately offset and dissolved. Faint traces of black energy began to pour into the sun and moon phantoms at a speed visible to the naked eye. Big sisters, I can still hold on. There's no need for you two to help. Mimi was so worried that she was about to cry. Although she had already experienced the good fortune of being able to sit at home and have delicious food delivered to her mouth while following Qin Yu, who knew whether there would be a third time. Seeing the largest wave of food arrive, Mimi wanted to take this chance to fill her pockets and slowly enjoy it in the future. But in the end, the two big sisters directly attacked, not giving her a chance at all. Their eyesight was truly sharp, and their timing was just right. Luckily, she was the one who transformed the mask. If she faced the person who attacked tonight, she would be able to obtain an extra portion. Even if the purple moon and blue sun ate faster, she shouldn't suffer too much of a loss. Gotcha! A small sound spread into the witchcraft sect master's ears. His eyes brightened, and he fiercely smiled. As he thought, aura-shielding treasures were nothing but trash in front of witchcraft. The first crack had already appeared, so could the second one be far behind? Although the collapse of a great levee started with one, the further it went, the faster it would collapse. This was the experience he had summed up in his many years of cultivation. But what happened next proved that not only could our ears and eyes deceive us, but so could our experiences. The witchcraft sect master's complexion paled and his body shivered. Even if his body was forged from steel, he still wouldn't be able to withstand such an extraction. But there was still only a single crack on the statue's black mask. It was on the left side of the face, shallow and unremarkable. He expected that a second crack would soon appear, but there was still no trace of it. It was as if the stone statue was crazily extracting his strength for naught. This caused the witchcraft sect master to be both shocked and angry. He discovered that the situation seemed to have spiraled out of his control. If he continued, who knew how much strength he would have to consume to break this damn mask? But if he chose to give up, the price he would have to pay was far too great. Moreover, things had already come to this point. If he gave up now, it would be a great loss. Caught between a rock and a hard place, the witchcraft sect master hesitated. Then there was a cracking sound in his ears like heavenly music. He looked up. Sure enough, another crack had appeared on the right side of the mask. The location of this crack was exactly the same as the first crack. The witchcraft sect master's eyes brightened. He didn't believe that this was just a coincidence. The locations where these two cracks appeared must contain some deep meaning. He had seen similar magic tools before. They had several nodes, and although they seemed indestructible, the truth was that they were still suffering damage. Once a node was broken, they would soon be destroyed. Perhaps at this time, he had already broken through the second node. As long as he persisted a little longer, he would soon see the dawn of victory. This realization greatly strengthened the witchcraft sect master's confidence, causing his anxious heart to gradually calm down. The location where the third crack appeared was the key. If it was as he thought, then it meant that his guess was correct. Otherwise, he would immediately give up. He would rather suffer the backlash of the witchcraft than continue. Time slowly passed. The underground chamber rumbled like a surging river. Behind the witchcraft sect master, the fainted little ancestors' eyes opened to sliver, a burning heat flashing through them. Perhaps the chance he had been waiting for so many years was about to arrive. If so, then it wouldn't be too long before the wish he had been yearning for day and night would soon come true. Little ancestors' eyes moved away and fell onto the black mask. He roared inwardly, "Don't break it!" Consume more of his strength and force him to interrupt the witchcraft. The witchcraft sect master wouldn't passively endure the terrifying backlash of the witchcraft. Once he used his hidden cards, a turning point would appear. Gotcha! Little ancestor's prayers seemed to have no effect. A third crack appeared, right between his eyebrows. It was like a saber from the horizon, crossing through space and time to ruthlessly cut down on the mask. As this crack appeared, it seemed to leak out its essence, energy, and divine will. The calm appearance of the mask began to distort, as if it were withstanding a great deal of pain. Following that, a fourth crack appeared, a fifth crack, a sixth crack. Cracking sounds filled the air without end. In the blink of an eye, the entire mask was covered. It was like porcelain that had been broken and pieced together, ready to fall apart at any moment. Little ancestor closed his eyes, a trace of disappointment and unwillingness on his pale face. His weight had become endless once more. Ah! Just as the witchcraft sect master was overjoyed, he cried out in alarm. The swallowing strength from the stone statue suddenly rose up, becoming even more intense than before. The speed at which strength flowed out of his body had reached a horrifying level. The witchcraft sect master instinctively wanted to sever his connection with the stone statue, but in the next moment he relied on his formidable will to forcefully stop himself. This was the counterattack of the mask before it broke. As long as he could endure it, the witchcraft would be completed. The witchcraft sect master sneered inwardly. He had experienced many great storms in his life. To think that this little trick could scare him away was simply a dream. Chapter 742. At this time, the person covered in the witchcraft aura must have sensed something. The fear of the unknown must be eating away at his mind. Ha ha! Believe me, this is only the beginning. There are still countless surprises waiting for you. 3 breaths of time passed. The witchcraft sect master sneered. This little fellow's deathbed counterattack was quite fierce, but was it useless? Another 3 breaths of time passed. The witchcraft sect master still sneered. Another 3 breaths of time passed. The witchcraft sect master found it hard to laugh. The fourth 3 breaths of time passed. The witchcraft sect master roared out loud. He wanted to draw back without hesitation. He didn't know what had happened, but things were clearly different from what he thought. But this time, the cracked black mask suddenly opened its eyes. A pair of mischievous eyes looked at the witchcraft sect master, revealing undisguised ridicule. In the next moment, the mask opened its mouth and bit down on the witchcraft sect master's finger. No matter how he tried, he couldn't break free. At the same time, an even more berserk, swallowing strength erupted. The stone statue was like a bottomless vortex, rumbling as it spun around, wanting to swallow him whole. Humph! It won't be so simple if you want to leave behind a piece of flesh. This person was really a big idiot. He actually only reacted now. However, the thoughts of these 2 sisters were really sinister enough. They actually perfectly calculated this person's thoughts and played him in the palm of their hands from the beginning to the end. This ability to control the hearts of others was too terrifying. No matter what, he couldn't offend these 2 big sisters in the future. As the mask was lost in thought, the witchcraft sect master was both alarmed and angry. With his status as a veteran of the martial world, he naturally realized that he had been schemed against. Moreover, he had already been discovered from the start of the witchcraft. It was just that the other party had deliberately lured him to continue attacking for some reason. To the witchcraft sect master, this sort of mental blow of being completely crushed was far greater than the damage he suffered today, causing his anger to soar to the heavens. A sharp light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Without hesitation, the witchcraft sect master lifted his hand and tore off his entire arm. Blood gushed out, and his pale face became even paler. This action was ruthless and decisive. Immediately after, he didn't stop at all. He stomped heavily on the ground, and his figure retreated explosively. The severed arm between the stone statue's eyebrows withered and decayed, losing all moisture. Like a piece of dead wood, it smashed to the ground and shattered. The flesh and blood covering the stone statue rapidly withered and turned to ash. The cracked mask grinned and vanished. Bang! The stone statue fell backwards, breaking into several pieces. Seeing this, the witchcraft sect master was enraged. He spat out a mouthful of blood, causing the ground to emit crackling sounds of corrosion. Damn it! But before he could finish cursing, he sensed something extremely terrifying appearing. His face paled, and he slapped his palm against his forehead. A light sound came from the witchcraft sect, between the sect master's body. Then, a red mark appeared between his eyebrows. Sect master's words. Time, he have. Bye. And he have be. Bye, he be. Bye. The cut was covered by a thin membrane. One could clearly see the internal organs wriggling, but not a single drop of blood flowed out. Soon, the flesh and blood of the two halves of the body grew rapidly. Bones, internal organs, and hair were reconstructed, and the other half of the body grew out. The two witchcraft sect masters stood facing each other. The person on the left cupped his hands together and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoists, for accepting this calamity in my place." The person on the right nodded. Of course. As soon as he finished speaking, large spots appeared on his exposed skin. They were dark and gloomy, like a corpse that had been buried underground for many years. In just a few breaths of time, the witchcraft sect master on the right rapidly decayed, turning into a puddle of stinking mucus on the ground. The backfire of the witchcraft had arrived. If you don't kill, you'll die. The witchcraft sect master's eyes were gloomy. This substitute body of his was almost identical to his true body. It would take him dozens of years to cultivate it again. Moreover, for a long time to come, his cultivation would be severely weakened, and he would not be able to attack at will. All of this was something that he had never thought of before he used his sorcery. Thinking back to how confident he was before, he felt his face burn even more. Hidden Fog Sect, Black Robe Man. No matter who you are, this matter isn't over. Everything you have suffered tonight, I will repay you double. Bang! There was a loud explosion behind him. The Hidden Fog Sect master's heart skipped a beat. He turned around to see that little ancestor had turned into a blood fog that howled towards him. Evil disciple, how dare you? With a loud roar, the Hidden Fog Sect master grasped his hand. The token in his hand shattered, but there was no movement from outside the chamber. In the next moment, the blood fog covered him. Angry roars rose up one after another, turning into howls of pain mixed with the sounds of flesh being torn apart and chewing. Gradually, the howls disappeared. All that was left was the clear sound of chewing, constantly echoing in the chamber. In the laboratory, the tumbling black fog that the naked eye and divine sense couldn't detect split into three and was cleanly swallowed up. Schwa, schwa. The purple moon and blue sun phantoms submerged into the bell. Then, it slowly fell to the ground as if nothing had happened. Qin Yu continued to immerse himself in cultivation. His mind was completely focused on controlling the power of the dragon soul and dragon blood to repair his injuries. Time quietly passed. In a small courtyard in Dragon City, a middle-aged man had changed into a brand new and luxurious tea set. He calmly took some water and began to brew tea. Steam rose into the air, and the fragrance of tea filled the air. He took a sip and closed his eyes, an intoxicated expression on his face. Good tea needed a certain concept and mood to be able to taste the subtlety and charm contained within. After taking small sips of the tea, the middle-aged man put down the teacup. His mind was clear, and a light smile appeared on his handsome face. For the Hidden Fog Sect to break through 10 rings and seize the first position and obtain the right to abide on the first day was indeed a bit unexpected. That Mr. Ningqin was a bit mysterious and breathtaking. It was no wonder that he was valued so highly by the Parliament. But his plan wouldn't be stranded because of this. As long as he adapted a bit, it would still be able to play its role. Calculating the time, it should be almost time. He poured out the tea in the pot and poured in hot water. The second brew began. Only then did the fragrance completely spread out. Doing things was like tasting tea. One had to be patient in order to drink the best flavor and obtain the greatest psychological satisfaction. 3 days after the first day of the arena, the losers of the Witchcraft Sect, Blue Origin Sect, and Mount Fuyao began their battle once more. They competed for the loser's best position in order to regain the qualifications to enter the finals. There were many spectators on the first day. Besides the three factions, there were also many supporters of the other sects that came to watch. In addition, the Hidden Fog sect was temporarily leading the four great sects in the finals. They also paid attention to this in order to prevent any accidents from occurring. In the endless years that had passed, there had been cases where the loser obtained the position of champion on the first day. Everything in the world was possible. Only by being cautious and careful could one avoid it to the greatest extent. The loser's best choice was to engage in a chaotic battle between the three sections. The only victor would obtain the opportunity to continue challenging others. Perhaps the process wasn't too fair, but the loser didn't have any choice to begin with. Thus, the loser's best position was often filled with brilliance. It was also because of this that a massive number of cultivators would come to watch. After a fierce battle, the Blue Origin Sect's Blue Ape emerged victorious, bathed in blood. The Witchcraft Sect, who had placed their hopes on them, was disappointed once more. Amidst curses and curses, they ended their trip to Dragon City ahead of time. The Witchcraft Sect didn't stay in Dragon City any longer. They boarded a flying boat and left. It was rumored that they wanted to return to their sect station as soon as possible to deal with the upcoming turmoil and changes. Compared to when they had arrived in high spirits and brimming with confidence, when the Witchcraft Sect left on the same flying boat, they were still gloomy and bleak. This topic boiled over for an entire day. Soon, it was replaced by speculations about which sect the Blue Origin Sect would challenge. This was because the loser didn't have the qualifications to be the focus of attention. The next day, news of the Blue Origin Sect station spread out, instantly sweeping through Dragon City and causing an uproar. Tomorrow, the Blue Ape would challenge the number one spirit beast of the Hidden Fog Sect in the arena, the Dark Star Ice Serpent. This matter surpassed everyone's expectations. It caused all sorts of discussions and speculations to erupt. The Hidden Fog Sect's carefree and high-spirited atmosphere also calmed down a little because of this news. Hu Fu summoned the high-level figures of the sect and held an emergency meeting. The Blue Origin Sect had broken through the 10th level, so why would they do this? Some elders speculated that it might have something to do with Radiance Temple, but this was quickly overruled by others. Even if the Blue Origin Sect and Radiance Temple were on good terms, they absolutely wouldn't use their sect spirit beast as the price to curry favor with Radiance Temple. Moreover, weren't they afraid of thoroughly angering the Hidden Fog Sect? After all, in the current situation, they were the strongest competitors for the position of chief. For hours later, the meeting dispersed. In the end, no one was able to find a reason why the Blue Origin Sect had chosen the Dark Star Ice Serpent. At the Blue Origin Sect station, the high-level figures all had gloomy expressions. The air was so oppressive that it seemed it would freeze. Sect Master, what is going on? Challenging the Hidden Fog Sect is not a wise move. That Dark Star Ice Serpent was able to break through the 10th level of the arena. Its strength is beyond imagination. Even if the Blue Ape is tyrannical, how can it compete with it? I asked the Sect Master to retract his order towards challenging the Hidden Fog Sect. All of the high-level figures of the Blue Origin Sect, besides an elder who was close to Radiance Temple, were all opposed. The Blue Origin Sect Master had a calm expression. He lightly said, "My sect has already considered this matter. The challenge target has already been chosen and cannot be changed." Seeing that everyone wanted to say more, he waved his hand and interrupted them. "If you don't agree, then after Dragon City arrives, you can impeach me. There is no need to speak any further." His attitude was firm. The high-level figures of the Blue Origin Sect became increasingly gloomy. After a moment of stalemate, several elders flicked their sleeves and left. The negotiation ended on bad terms. "Teacher, what are you doing?" A disciple beside him bitterly smiled. The Blue Origin sect master shook his head. "You don't understand. None of you understand." He didn't speak further. He stood up and walked into his room. After avoiding everyone's eyes, his calm face twisted. If possible, how could he be willing to provoke the rising sun of the Hidden Fog sect? But this wasn't up to him. Chapter 743. The next day, Dragon City's arena. The Blue Origin sect challenge to the Hidden Fog sect was a topic that attracted the attention of nearly everyone in Dragon City because of its strangeness. There was still some time before the challenge began, but the giant stone chairs in the arena were already filled with cultivators. They were all curious. Why would the Blue Origin sect choose the Hidden Fog sect? And where did they get their confidence from? Weren't they afraid that their sect's spirit beast would be slaughtered on the spot by the Dark Star Ice Serpent? Look, it's the cultivators of Radiance Temple. The Limitless Sword sect and Moonkeep Tower have also sent people. The people from Mount Fu, Yao, have already arrived. As expected, everyone is paying attention to this battle. After all, this is great news for them. In today's battle, the Dark Star Ice Serpent's true strength will be exposed. Moreover, even if they win, they will lose some of their strength. TSK, I really can't figure out why the Blue Origin sect would sacrifice themselves like this. Everyone was talking, but the 5 great sects didn't seem to hear anything. In truth, they also couldn't figure out why today's battle had started. It was said that a dispute had arisen within the Blue Origin sect yesterday. The Blue Origin sect Master Wei Han had taken a tough stance and suppressed the opposition of the elders. But before this, Dragon City had never heard that Wei Han had a grudge with the Hidden Fog sect. In the rumors, he had always been a smooth and slick character. Moments later, there was a burst of restlessness. Today's protagonists, the Blue Origin sect and the Hidden Fog sect, arrived at the same time. The cultivators from both sides glanced at each other. The Hidden Fog sect people had calm expressions. As for the Blue Origin sect cultivators, they all had worried expressions. The atmosphere was heavy. Hu Fu lightly said, "Sect Master Wei Han, my sect has come to accept the challenge. But there is something I'm puzzled about. I wonder if you can dispel it for me?" Wei Han shook his head. "Since things have come to this, there is no need to speak any further. Let's begin." He flicked his sleeves, and light flashed in the air. The giant blue ape landed in the arena, causing the ground to shake. Roar! The blue ape reared its head back and roared. Hu Fu frowned for a moment before composing himself. Since the Blue Origin sect had refused his final goodwill, there was no need to hold back. With the Dark Star Ice Serpent strength, the result was already decided before the battle had even begun. Pitch-black scales covered its body, and a silver horn pointed towards the skies like a spear. The Dark Star Ice Serpent's giant body appeared from nothingness, solidifying. Silver-white lines crisscrossed within his eyes, locking onto the green ape. His eyes were filled with indifference and coldness. The ground trembled, and a layer of light appeared, isolating the arena from the outside world. The seal had already been activated. Only when the battle ended and one side emerged victorious would it naturally be unlocked. The blue ape stepped forwards and shot into the skies. Like a great mountain, it crashed down on the Dark Star Ice Serpent. Before it even arrived, the terrifying aura it released had already caused cracks to appear on the ground. The Dark Star Ice Serpent looked up. The temperature between the heavens and earth crazily fell, and the invisible air became thick with it. It was as if an invisible net had enveloped the green ape. A frosty white color appeared on its strong and burly body. Then, it turned into a shallow icicle. Although it looked extremely thin, it contained a terrifying chill and was harder than iron and stone. This scene caused the hearts of the surrounding spectators to tremble. This was truly worthy of being a terrifying spirit beast that could break through 10 levels in a single move. The Dark Star Ice Serpent hadn't even truly attacked, yet had already suppressed the blue ape. At this rate, before the green ape could even get close, it would be frozen into a huge block of ice by the absolute coldness. Was this the challenge of the Qingyuan sect? If he didn't have a backup plan, it would be a joke. Unless Zhu Weihan of the Qingyuan sect was crazy, he would never do such a thing without any gain. There had to be a backup plan. There had to be a backup plan. The hidden fog sect master, Hu Fu, also thought this. Thus, even though the Dark Star Ice Serpent had gained the absolute advantage in the first exchange, he still didn't relax. The unknown often meant danger. Towards the Qingyuan sect's challenge, even though he had confidence in the Dark Star Ice Serpent, he still felt that something was wrong. But this blue ape, or to be more precise, what was the Qingyuan sect's backup plan? Kacha! The layer of ice on the surface of the blue ape's body rapidly thickened, releasing an increasingly formidable sealing and killing power. But it still hadn't attacked. It only maintained its initial posture of smashing into the Dark Star Ice Serpent, as if it had lost all ability to resist. Was it going to end like this? Please, this couldn't even be considered a strong start, but a weak finish, okay? Just what was Wei Han doing? He had used the Qingyuan sect spirit beast to play with everyone. So what benefits did he have? Ha ha ha. Elder C laughed. With just this bit of strength, you dare to challenge my sect's Dark Star Ice Serpent? You simply don't know death or danger. Ever since the Qingyuan sect chose the Hidden Fog sect as their target, both sides had torn apart all pretense of cordiality. There was no longer any need for any scruples. That's right. Besides humiliating myself, I don't see any harvests. Perhaps the Qingyuan sect wants to give my Hidden Fog sect a good omen before the finals begin. We must accept your good intentions. If so, then I must thank the Qingyuan sect for delivering such a valuable omen. The high-level figures of the sects mocked. As far as they were concerned, this challenge had already come to an end. Hu Fu frowned. He stared at the blue ape that had already been turned into a block of ice. The unease in his heart became increasingly heavy. He swept his eyes over the indifferent Qingyuan sect master. He suddenly stood up and roared, "Dark Star Ice Serpent, immediately kill it." He couldn't wait any longer. On the ground, the Dark Star Ice Serpent, covered in black scales, seemed to sense some strange aura. It opened its mouth and spat out a breath. This breath was deep and pale, causing the temperature of the world to wildly fall. An icy cold aura penetrated into the marrow. At this moment, the ice that sealed the green ape turned into a pure blue color, reflecting a dazzling halo under the sunlight. It was incomparably beautiful, but it contained a terrifying chill. Even if only a trace of it was emitted, it was enough to freeze lakes and rivers. The Qingyuan sect's blue ape was finished. Just as this thought appeared in everyone's minds, the deep blue ice block that approached the Dark Star Ice Serpent began to emit tiny syllables. In the next moment, countless cracks appeared, covering the entire ice block like a dense spiderweb. Bang! Under countless shocked gazes, the deep blue ice block split into countless pieces. Wrapped in a terrifying strength, it smashed into the ground. It erupted so suddenly without any warning. It completely covered the area where the Dark Star Ice Serpent was. Above its head, the exquisite runes on the surface of its silver horn suddenly lit up. A halo of light protected the Dark Star Ice Serpent. In the next moment, the deep blue ice fragments fell down like hail. The expected collision didn't occur. The moment both sides collided, a faint black light appeared on the surface of each ice fragment. Wrapped in ice fragments, it pierced through the halo of light and ruthlessly smashed into the Dark Star Ice Serpent's body. Bang, bang, bang. The entire arena gently trembled. Loud bangs shook the heavens and earth. Crushed stones flew into the air, blocking everyone's line of sight. Schwa, schwa. After a brief, deathly silence, cultivators fiercely stood up. Their faces were filled with shock as they looked at the tumbling stones. The Dark Star Ice Serpent's figure appeared. Its massive body was still standing tall, but countless bloody holes had been torn open on its body. Black blood spewed out from each hole. As for the blue ape, It had vanished from the world as the deep blue ice shattered. One died, one lived. Victory and defeat had been decided. The arena's blockade vanished with it. Qing Yuan's sect. Hu Fu angrily roared. With a flick of his sleeves, he put away the Dark Star Ice Serpent and howled away. Now wasn't the time to be angry and take revenge. He had to immediately seek help from Mr. But deep in Hu Fu's heart, he felt an icy chill. How could such serious injuries be healed in just a few days? The position of champion that seemed within his grasp had instantly become incomparably distant. Would the Hidden Fog sect still have chance? Wei Han was expressionless. He didn't care about the high-level figures of the sect behind him. Instead, he turned and left. He had accomplished what he had promised. What were the consequences? Wei Han was well aware of what sort of turmoil this would cause. But he didn't care about any of this. He only hoped that those people would keep their word. The challenge ended in a farcical and tragic manner. Some people were shocked, and some people were wild with joy. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.